And then there's Valvered. What's his win-loss ratio, Bill?
Wait. Harada lost to Lily Peach.
Yeah, Lily Peach. You said Lily. I was assuming it was Lily Peach, so yeah, I understand that.
Apparently, she's been on a huge training arc, so, you know.
Good for her.
That's really funny. I can't believe Michael Reeves is gonna have to deal with Harada now.
Ooh. Wait, I'm not familiar. Michael Reeves is who? I only know Michael Jones.
Michael Reeves is the short, psychotic Filipino scientist man that Lily Pichu was dating / married to.
Okay, fair enough.
They're married now? Good for them.
I don't know, there's something.
I look this up and I immediately see I am auctioning this piece of trash screaming Roomba, and I'm just like, well.
Yeah, that's one of his many inventions.
Like the Pacer's beer glass.
Okay, that one loses me a little bit. Just a little bit.
It says what it does on the tin, my guy.
Fair enough.
Drink faster, you get shocked. It was made for his appearance on Cold Ones.
I see. Honestly, I know what Cold Ones is like. I don't remember. Considering Maximofo is one of the only surviving members of the Filthy Frank trio, I can kind of understand.
I'm pretty sure he is the only surviving member at this point.
Wait,
Yes.
Isn't Joji doing okay for himself for keeping his nose clean?
No, I mean in terms of Filthy Frank, the content.
Yeah, no. In terms of the content, yeah, no. Max Mofo is still doing stuff while Joji's focused on music, and I don't know about the third guy.
I don't know about How to Basic. I think they're doing fine.
No, I think How to Basic is still doing the same old content and living his best life.
Right. I want that energy. I want to be able to live a life of good virtue and supporting others. Which ideally is what I've been doing with this stream as far as I can tell, but at the same time, hey, look at that. If you have anything I can improve on, you're welcome to tell me so.
Indeed.
It's like how I've been told that the one thing I could stand to improve on is energy, and I want to believe we're getting there. And then I immediately go, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to read you a book.
Settle down, children, as Mr. Ichi is going to read you a bedtime story.
With you throwing things at me like that, I'm not too sure no more. I'm kidding. Either way, I'm just over here like, hey, look at that. I don't know, at 400 followers, I'll read you The Outsider too. Why? Because Merceau is my favorite Limpus dude.
Oh my god.
I don't know. I feel like we should probably just get started. I don't know. Life is weird. Life fills me with glory and spite.
Life is strange. Too.
Before the storm?
Before the storm.
Baron, what happens after the storm? Does Chloe Price actually get her act together?
Most likely, considering the fact that her bitchy blue-haired friend is dead.
No, that is Chloe.
Oh wait, forgot about that.
Max is the brunette.
I keep forgetting their names. I don't care about fucking Life is Strange. You know this.
I care mostly in the fact that I was there from the beginning.
I was there from the beginning too, and I hated everyone.
You've only just now committed the theory. I was born in it, molded by it.
And all of it was toxic.
Mm-hmm. But it was good rep at the time, so, you know, that's just how it goes. You want to talk about other... I like that game. It was fun. I feel as though we could use that energy for Remember Me, but I think Don't Nod made that one first. Anyway, I'm going to teach you a thing. It's called lore. It's called, hey, look at that book. You know it's a book because it immediately opens on the book. Why don't we do something with that? Read!
Books, you nerd.
And where is Fugi? It's gone.
Oh boy. So, are we all just gonna be like getting different characters for this, or just you're gonna be reading it?
I mean, if you want, I'm pretty sure the game itself is voiced. It's more just narration that we're working with. It's like Limbus.
Gotcha.
Except I played Dante from the Devil May Cry series.
Ew.
Anyway, game audio. Game will have audio, I think. Make it make sense. I had to update this thing. Don't worry about it. We'll make it go. It was a winter's day 8 years ago. That's solemn morning.
Oh wait, hold on, Ichi. Before you do anything, have you updated the category?
Thank you. You see, that's the thing that I need people to make me aware of more often. My controller. I don't need a controller. It's a book. Anyway. That solemn morning when she understood the value of life for the very first time. Her home was nestled on the side of a mountain. Around it was nothing but inhospitable wilderness. She had no neighbors or childhood friends to speak of. Things like traveling to school or playing outside were more trouble than they ought to be. Indeed, with its pure water and bright stars, it was a place rich with memories both frustrating and halcyon. That was only during summer, though. Winters in those mountains were extremely frigid, each morning more severe than the last. Her father would drive her to the train station, after waiting 10 minutes for the engine to warm up and the iced-over windows to clear. Like I said before, when characters talk, they talk. I'm glad for that. Her father would savor his morning coffee, leaving her to venture outside and rev the engine. Out the front door she would go, traversing the garden with icy breath until she reached that old sedan. As always, she inserted the key, then started the ignition. The engine rumbled to life. Just as she proudly finished that humble task she'd done so many times before, a shrill scream pierced the air.
That shit caught me off so hard, dude.
It did though, didn't it? She knew, even though it wasn't human, that the feeble sound was a cry of agony. A few moments passed. Her father came out and opened the hood of the car. Creaking fan belts, a monstrous-looking engine, and something that didn't belong. There was a cat, a mother by the looks of it, and her 2 kittens. The 3 cats had been huddling for warmth in the engine's compartment. The mother cat was missing its head. One of the kittens had been mangled beyond recognition by the engine belts and surely died instantly.
Wow, we surely are in the right place, aren't we?
We're in it.
The other kitten, its face half covered in blood, panted faintly. It desperately clung to its mother, or rather the chunk of meat that had been its mother, with the last bit of life it could muster. Her father lamented their plight. The previous night had been especially cold. After he returned home yesterday, the cats must have snuck under the hood, drawn by the warmth of the engine. They had slept next to the engine, and awoken to a storm of spinning belts. Cars in the 80s were not sealed particularly well, so this was not unheard of. Her father's voice seemed distant. She could only make out a small tuft of the kitten's gray fur. The rest of it was caked in the blood of its mother and brother. I can see its skull. The fragile life of a speckled kitten, trembling and possibly blind, continued to nuzzle against its dead mother's chest. She took the kitten into her arms and ran deep into the mountains to her grandfather's house. Was it because she was overcome with regret? Or was it the shock of grief? Years later, she still wasn't sure. Fighting back at the welling tears, she burst into her grandfather's workshop. Her grandfather was a magician who could do anything. She had never seen magic. She knew that magic was a fantasy straight out of fairy tales, but so was her grandfather. She had to find him. He was the only one who could help. The cave-dwelling magician said indifferently. "This kitten needs our help," she pleaded. Whether it was a simple task or a Herculean labor, her grandfather would not say. How do I struggle on the word Herculean when there's a word like halcyon out there?
Herculean.
Exactly, thank you. He simply granted the girl's childish wish like a machine.
Whoa. Oh no.
The girl said. Before she knew it, however, she was holding a tiny corpse in her hands. Its fur was cold. The warmth of life had left its body, and the tears she had fought so hard to hold back poured from her eyes. Regret spread through her chest like an endless gray sky. Well, gee, thanks, Jotaro. Her mind struggled to come to grips with what had just occurred. The last 10 minutes were a total blank. Who she met, what she had known, it was all as if it never happened. The only thing she was sure of was that life, once extinguished, can never return. That day, it was her mistake that gave birth to me. Indeed. Whatever occurred that day, it was a day of nostalgia and longing. This is the fairy tale of 8 years ago. The day they first met, that no magic can ever bring back. What is this? This is what it's like to do magic. I expect a copyrighted intro, I don't know. Arrogant, greedy, and able only to destroy. I must be a wolf. I don't have regrets. There's no looking back. If my pride has left you behind, my sincere condolences. But at any rate, I suppose it's my fate to die at the hands of Little Red Riding Hood.
Strange one. Fights.
It does feel like a fighting game intro, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I feel like I should be practicing Alco and Melty right now. Well, then you're doing it right, because this is her story. It was a quiet morning. From her bed, she could see the sky was an ashen watercolor gray. The thermometer displayed 43 degrees Fahrenheit, a rather unforgiving temperature for November. Her stomach woke up with a growl, pathetically reminding her that she had completely missed breakfast. But lazy mornings like today were for her a blessing. It was already well past 8 in the morning. On any ordinary weekday, tardiness would be unavoidable, but today classes were canceled in commemoration of the school's anniversary. Gratefully, she had every intention of taking it easy for the first time in ages. Outside the window was a gloomy gray, and it reminded her more of evening than morning. It wasn't a pleasant morning by any stretch of the imagination. But having been up all night until just 3 hours ago, she couldn't care less about the weather outside. All she cared about was more sleep. Relatable. As long as she could spend her morning in bed, what was happening outside was of no concern to her. She shut the curtains. then closed her eyes and tried to let sleep reclaim her.
せめてあと2時間ぐらいは凡庸な夢を見ていられますように。
Blissful slumber found her soon enough. Her consciousness faded. However, her simple request would be mercilessly refused. I feel the need to go. This girl has an acoustic electric guitar and an amp. I think she's loaded. How about you?
I have many questions already.
Well, then good. We're gonna do our best to answer them as we go.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know enough about Mahoyo to actually answer them anyway, so we'll find out together. How does that sound?
Yay!
A faint but shrill sound lingered in her ears. It was the unmistakable ring of a telephone. Much to her chagrin, her eyes popped open out of habit.
こんな日に限って。
The telephone was situated in the foyer on the first floor. Answering it meant walking down a 30-foot corridor and going down a flight of stairs. In her sleep-deprived state, that distance seemed somewhere between incredibly far and astronomically far. The phone's incessant ringing continued. She knew the caller would eventually give up if she ignored it, but she chose to fight the urge.
アリス出ないの？
She thought her housemaid would get it, but she soon had to abandon all hope. The realization struck that her housemate did not have the day off from school and was likely in class at her prestigious little hilltop academy. The caller proved incredibly persistent. That persistence made the volume of the ringing seem even louder.
もうせっかくの安眠を。
You ever think about that, by the way? Whenever a character like this says "maw," it's never translated.
Nope.
Nope.
I'm just over here like in the good old days of TV Nihon, where they tried. They didn't try very hard.
They tried so hard and got so far, but in the end it didn't even matter.
She was left with no choice but to get up, throw a top on, and leave the room.
Put on a shirt, you animal.
うわ、寒。
It's 43 degrees cold. I haven't had a cold day in what feels like 10 years.
Oh god, that sounds uncomfortable.
She rubbed her hands together to warm her numb fingers. The mansion's heating system was inadequate, to say the least. Okay, that explains it. Which meant that winter was the very worst of uninvited guests. Imagine being cold. Couldn't be anyone in this global heat wave. I know, right? It's almost as if this is a problem or something. Never more so than on a dreary morning as this, when one didn't need to use the thermometer to know how cold it was. That mansion sat in the mountains. It was surrounded by a dense forest. Winter always arrived here first before moving on to nearby towns. The robotic ring of the telephone reverberated throughout the long hallway. The mansion's furnishings had been so perfectly maintained that it made the place feel unlived. It seemed lonelier than it did splendid. Coupled with the dreary morning, it could have passed for a haunted house.
ま、幽霊屋敷そのものだけど。
You ever just wanted to live in a haunted mansion?
Every goddamn day of my life.
I don't want to live in a haunted mansion. I have melanin. I know that shit's not gonna go well for me.
Well, I mean, would you like to live in Eddie Murphy's The Haunted Mansion?
No.
Well then, alright then. Hell no, I'm so fucking scared of ghosts. Understandable. I'm just over here like, but the property value though.
I know the property value is gonna be good for us, but still though. I ain't getting my head chopped off by some Elizabeth Bathory looking bitch. You crazy?
There. You just gotta go in with a vacuum. Don't worry about it.
I'd tech it.
You ain't taking shit.
I'd tech it.
You ain't taking shit, my guy.
だいたい2人で住むには広すぎるのよ、この家は。
You see, there's only 2 people living here. Don't worry about it. She counted more than 30 rings since it first began. What is that, like 10 minutes? The caller either had a lot of free time on their hands or had a good understanding of the house's circumstances. She had a strong hunch that it was the latter. The window above looked out onto a gloomy sky. She hastened to catch the unrelenting ring in the act as soon as possible. How the heck has it not gone to voicemail? Because it's the mid-80s, no one's got that. Though she had a feeling that her happy morning might come to a close the moment she caught it. It was here that a series of incidents began. Apologies for the lack of romance to this tale. Well, welcome to Type Moon visual novel. It's got something in it.
Yep.
Or whether it be objectively true or merely supposition. It is always from gloomy and unassuming beginnings that extraordinary events are set into motion. I swear if this is copyright.
Maybe I just cut the audio on OBS right now, just in case.
I mean, I will consider it as soon as they start singing. Also, hey, look, it's your protagonist. Would you know what you should do to appreciate this protagonist? Go buy a copy of Melty Blood Type Lumina right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
There is, in fact, a historical picture of Alco posted up with Tupac. That actually happened.
You know what? I'll believe it. Imagine streamer mode for this game. Nope, you open the game, you immediately boot up the game, you ask yourself, is Aniplex gonna come for my head if I stream too much of this game?
The answer at all those is yes.
Uh-huh.
I have no real input. I'm just looking at pictures. I'm just looking at this gif of snow leopards playing with the basketball. Funny. I'm
just over here like, I want the intro to be good, and the intro is good. Look at this art, it's really nice. I'm just here like, I came here to read for people.
reading.
If anything, like I said before, it's one of those things that's just like, hey, look at that, not a lot of Limits Company content going right now, so this is what we're filling it with.
Yay!
Wait, why is it so dark? Why is it so dark? I don't know. What happened? Am I...
Twitch said, nah, I'll cover it. You don't have to worry about everything that shows up. Man, these automatic sensors are going hard.
I don't know what happened. Well, I can skip it, at least. Oh, lol, I thought it was still loading. Okay, wow, that must have actually been a real sensor. Good on you. Thank you, Nasu, for bleeping the thing anyway. The rain had subsided somewhat by the time she reached the school gate. Sunlight seemed to be playing a peekaboo behind the clouds in the distance. It looked like it might be cleared up by the early afternoon.
と言っても、私には関係のない話だけど。
The weather reflected her luck. On top of being forced out of the house at such an early hour, she had to suffer through a winter rain. You ever just go out in the freezing rain and just ask yourself, why does it have to be raining? It's a terrible day for rain.
Yeah.
I'm getting a bad feeling about this. The sinking feeling she had only grew as she passed through the entrance and headed inside. I wanted to see the menu, though. You don't get a menu. If anything, I will press escape right now. This is your menu. And the most you get is that you can place a bookmark. Which is what we're doing right now.
We just call that a save button.
Mm-hmm. You read the book. What's the gameplay? You go in, you read the book.
Oh, red. I didn't know that fucking Mad Wheel got a rainbow variant.
Ooh.
Look at my little boy.
She didn't encounter any other students along the way. Nor did she see anyone taking part in club activities either. The reception desk of the faculty room simply read faculty closed. The school had given all its students the day off, except those explicitly summoned, like her. The fact that irked her more and more as the minutes passed. Honestly, I kind of can relate to that. You ever just get an immediate summons on your day off and just go, it's vacation, leave me alone?
Please don't say those words at me. I'm actually about to go on vacation right this week, and I really don't want to deal with that.
I will salt the earth and hope and pray that it doesn't happen for you.
Please, I really don't.
She opened the door to a faculty room and headed toward the desk she had visited a number of times before. The man at the desk wore a plain shirt and suit that were nonetheless neatly pressed. Slim framed glasses adorned his face, giving an amicable yet cunning air. The mild-mannered image this mid-20s man presented clashed with the cigarette he smoked. It's the 80s, everybody smoked. He didn't appear to have noticed her yet.
Yamashiro-sensei.
He closed the door with a bang. Showing no response to the sudden sound, Mr. Yamashiro lifted his head.
Yeah. Ohayo, Aozaki-kun. Youken wa kiiteiru kana?
He looks like a Yamashiro. Look at this man's glasses. Look at this man's tie.
はい。1時間前に自宅で、事前に何の相談もなく。
Having graduated from this high school himself, Mr. Yamashiro was not much older than the rest of the students. For that reason, the students preferred him over the other teachers. He's Gen from Forze. He always had something interesting to talk about and kept the conversations casual. In fact, he seemed more like an older student than a teacher, but she unfortunately didn't share her fellow students' fondness for him. She was of the opinion that teachers should come across as more austere. You know what, that's a good question. Do you prefer your teachers more friendly or more strict?
Friendly, because if I have to deal with a strict teacher, I've had to deal with strict teachers all my goddamn life, and all of them sucked. Well, the majority of them sucked.
Understandable. I guess it really is the case of, do you pass the vibe check? And if they don't, that's 4 years down the drain.
Yep.
Strict because we're not friends. You see, that's the other thing about it. It's just like, I'm not here to be your friend. I'm here to be taught. We can
I feel that too.
We can become friends along the way, but at the same time, don't push your luck.
Yeah, no. I like a teacher who is serious about teaching me, but doesn't want to treat it like it's some kind of goddamn drill instructor, or you just take all the fun of learning away from me.
And then there's Gentaro, who only exists in Tokyo, so, you know, he doesn't count as an example.
He does not count as an example, unfortunately.
I don't like both, understandable for sure. Like an iron fist that could inspire both love and hate in equal measure. Not a buddy to joke and pal around with. It was the exact opposite of how she felt a teacher should be. It was only natural that her manner towards him would be forced and unfriendly.
Oh.
Not that she'd ever been wired to make friendly small talk.
今日もご機嫌斜めみたいだね、君は。
それは先生の気のせいです。今日だけ特別という話ではありませんから。
It's just her face, don't worry about it.
When they ask you, you should smile more, dude. You're always so grumpy. And I'm just going like, this is how I normally look, dude.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far with it, but you're right.
Yeah. Oh, not the first part of it. You know what I mean? Just like, dude, you need to just smile more or something. Come on, you're being all frowny and grumpy.
Sometimes people are just benign. Don't worry about it.
Indeed. Just leave us alone. We're not bothering nobody.
The matter-of-fact answer perfectly matched the displeasure placed on her face. Her bad mood from having to get up early and the tiredness from staying up late must have collectively made her look positively adversarial.
そうならいいんだけどね。彼にはそう辛く当たらないでくれよ。僕らじゃ正直どう扱っていいかわからないところもあるし。
先生、その件ですけど、私まだ詳しい話を聞かされていないのですが。
We're not friends, immediately swears the teacher. Sounds accurate. As Mr. Yamashiro met her piercing eyes, he finally understood the reason behind her tone and slowly put out a cigarette. You're smoking in the faculty room. Why are you like this?
Because teachers are in Japan are very stressed.
転入生の紹介をするとだけです。理由も脈絡もない説明でした。
One of Mr. Yamashiro's eyebrows stood up, impressed with the brevity of her answer. He could see that she was angry, not because she had been called to school on her day off, but because she hadn't been told why she was here. Relatable. Mr. Yamashiro chuckled sympathetically.
先生、これが笑い話ならそろそろ帰っていいでしょうか。
いや、ごめん。謝るよ。冗談じゃなくて真面目な話なんだ。ちょっと君の手を借りたくてね。
本当に転入生の問題で？
うん。訳ありというか難しいというか。彼、宗十郎くんと言うんだけど、ちょっといろいろとずれていてね。僕らが案内してあげるより同世代の君の方が適任だと思ったんだ。
He's a bit odd. He's not from round here. She threw him an unamused look. It was negligent of them to be pushing teaching duties on her, but she did wonder how exactly this transfer student was peculiar. Maybe he meant that the student had behavioral problems or was difficult somehow. But peculiar? She didn't have the slightest idea what that meant.
ずれてるなんてそう使わない表現だけど。
She had her doubts, but swept them aside for now. This wasn't the time to get distracted by more concerns. The fact remained that this conversation was all the peculiar she could handle, and she needed more information. She was already beginning to fantasize about saying no and curling up in her warm bed at home.
一つ質問があります。
何？あ、学年は君と同じ2年生だよ。性格は落ち着きがあって人の話をよく聞くタイプ。裏を返せば覇気がないとも取れるけど、それならそれで付き合いやすいだろ。
Might have wanted to lead with that.
青崎くんとはクラスは違うけど、きっと仲良くな。
そういったことは本人から直接聞きますし、測ります。そうではなく、なぜ私なんでしょうか。
Though her tone was still stern, it was clear that she was willing to cooperate. She had decided to put her feelings of dissatisfaction aside and focus on the task at hand. Forcing herself to act empathetic in spite of her self-absorbed nature was something she was used to. Paradoxically, this force of will was also the reason teachers put so much faith in her. To a point. At times, that strength shattered expectation, and on those occasions, they were left with no choice but to treat it like a natural disaster and weather it until it passed. That was how Mr. Yamashiro had come to deal with her, as over the past year.
もう一度だけ聞きます、山城先生。それで、なぜ私なんでしょうか。
Well, you see, you as the protagonist are the perfect person to deal with the transfer student because, you know, this is an anime plot. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. It's fine.
Don't worry about it.
Pressured by a question without a clear yes or no answer, he answered.
それはね。別に青崎くんが先生方に敬遠されているのと同じぐらい信頼されていて、学校のためなら教師も生徒も一緒くたに切って捨てる鉄の生徒会長だからじゃないよ。
それ以外にこんな呼びつけを受ける理由はないと思いますけど。
Her Her eyes did nothing to hide her disbelief as she glared at him. Strength far beyond that of an ordinary 17-year-old girl, coupled with the youthful beauty of one. Mr. Yamashiro let slip a genuine smile, admiring the miraculous balance of qualities. It's the power of
責務だ
youth.
けでいいなら僕がやってるさ。この人選に関しちゃ教師や生徒会長といった役職も関係ないよ。なんていうか、こんな頼みを損得抜きで聞いてくれるのは君だけだと思ってね。適任ですからと強く推薦したわけ。
You ever just find yourself so undeniably, what is the word, reliable that it just kind of falls on you by default? Because that's what this is sounding like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In other words, he knew she wouldn't say no.
山城先生。
うわ、怖っ。もう睨まない睨まない。言ったろ？僕にはともかく彼には笑顔でって。
And then Alco's like, what if I didn't?
What if
とま
I just did?
納得してくれたならすぐに移動しよう。もうずいぶん待たせてしまっているからね。それと雨の中ご苦労様。帰りはもちろん車で送るよ。
Mr. Yamashiro stood up gracefully. I'm good, thanks, she replied before turning and walking out of the faculty room. You know what? That is the
Damn.
correct answer.
Yeah, I'm good, homie. Peace.
He had been waiting for about an hour. I'm sorry, Red?
I'm gonna have if in that situation. I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna have to sit there.
That's kind of how I feel about it. Regardless of the conditions outside, I just look at it and go, I have no interest in sharing a car with you.
Mm-hmm. You give off the vibe of someone who wants to do horrible, horrible things to your students.
Don't worry about it. He's just a guy trying his best. It's the late 80s. Let a man live.
I don't trust him. He gives off secret antagonist vibes. I'm sorry.
Honestly, I don't blame you. Well, a lot of Type Moon is secret antagonists. I'm not going to lie to you.
Mm-hmm.
While he did, the rain shower lightened to a drizzle. His mind wandered as he listened to the sound of the raindrops. Raindrops keep falling on my head.
Red.
The room was filled with neatly arranged rectangular tables. He was the only one there. Quite some time had passed since he had been brought to this room and asked to wait. Even the best behaved student might have grown dissatisfied or anxious with the situation by now, but the boy stuck to his spot like a scarecrow. I don't know what a scarecrow is. It sounds ineffective.
He just stares at the enemy.
It's just staring there at the corn, menacingly.
Corn?
Yes, it's where the children come out of.
I thought that's where the band was from.
Column A, column B. He was chilled to the bone. It was the end of November, and the low temperature in the morning had marked the start of winter. The room was not much more warmer. The heater hadn't been turned on. Either he'd missed the teacher telling him to turn it on, or he'd never seen one in his life. He breathed lightly on his freezing fingers as he aimlessly surveyed his surroundings. This dreary place was apparently a meeting room. The other students might have considered it a wonderful place to meet, but to him it was drab and overly spacious.
This is where we have our Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments.
This is where the club meets for D&D, and they don't get heat about it because I don't think
This is the room where we talk about chaotic.
Ah. Wait, chaotics.
Yeah, that's
chaotic.
evil.
Fair enough, I'm just over here like, Knuckles chaotics, what are you talking about?
I'm talking about.
I thought it was chaotics with an X.
Understandable.
Yeah, that's the Sonic team. Chaotic is the one with K, or voiced by Sean Shamel, of all people.
You know, that makes me wonder, were barcode toys popular in the 80s?
No, they didn't have the technology to handle barcodes like that until, like, the 90s.
Understandable.
Yeah, no, remember Barcode Warriors?
Remember
No.
Digimon?
Yes. Remember that gimmick they did with the 4th season?
Yes, because unlike most people, Frontier was actually something I enjoyed.
Same.
Yeah, no, Frontiers is a great season. People who say that it's bad don't know shit.
So Frontiers has some issues here and there. Its pacing is a little in some places. It literally has a giant filler plot line in it.
It has Burgermon.
Yeah, it has Burgermon. It has some issues. However, overall, the aesthetics and design of the entire season are fucking phenomenal. And people need to respect that shit because holy fuck, those designs are heat.
I'm just over here like we should talk about the Mercurymon more, because what's his name? I don't remember. He's played...
Dan Orbit?
Whoever plays Cosmo in Fairly Odd Parents.
Yeah, that's it.
Darren Norris, thank you. There it goes. Heroes the Third, that's what it is.
Here's the...
Which one was Frontier Season 4? The one with the guy with the backwards hat, who could turn into the Fire Digimon. Also, Type Moon, that's Tsukihime, Lunar Legend, right? We don't talk about that one specifically, but yes. You know what you should do right now, Kyo? You should buy Tsukihime a glass of sky silver.
Glass Moon or some shit like that.
Yes. On your funny PS4 device, that would be good for you, I assume. I'm still waiting for the Steam port. They say it's going to be a little bit of a light remaster on top of it.
Hey, I'm still waiting for the Steam port of No More Heroes 2.
You have one. It just needs a little bit of a remaster in of itself.
It needs to be good.
I'm telling you, just get it for your totally legitimate Nintendo Wii and don't worry about it.
We have remote controls.
You don't even need them. Just plug in a controller and go.
Exactly.
It was a lifeless place that reminded him of an arid cave. Stuck in this cold room with absolutely nothing to do, his mind turned to what they wanted to discuss. Unable to come up with a solid answer, he returned to his attention to the sound of the rain. Well, I can't do that since I'm still at work. Lol, and I'll never remember. I will put it in the goddamn game talk later. The rain hardly resembled the rain in the mountains, though he could still recognize it, barely. Its smell and sound were harsher, but at the end of the day, rain was still rain. So even this world, alien as it was, could have something in common with the mountains. That trivial detail perked him up a little. He liked how the town looked soaked in rain. Naturally, he preferred sunny weather, but he liked rain in its own way. The fog from the rain had soaked up the scent of the soil, and it reminded him of home. It was at times like these that he was able to numb the anxiety the city gave him.
These talks of rain are very long.
I like rain. What's your favorite form of weather?
I like a cool spring sunny day, honestly. Because it's not too hot, neither is it too cold. You got that perfect area of warm weather, and it's not like it's gonna rain, but everything is just perfectly moist in a sense. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have like dry air.
Honestly, I do feel you in that regard. If anything, my favorite's probably overcast, just for the idea of, hey, look at that. It's not too bright out, but you can still see faint shimmers of it coming through the cloud line, and it's just like, I like it when it's cold.
Dark, cloudy winter.
It's thaw, and it's cloudy, and sometimes there's packed snow on the ground that's powdery, and it just crunches when it goes under your feet, and it's just like natural ASMR for you to enjoy on your day of listening to nothing but nothing.
What
Do you
about
have
you, Val?
Hmm.
what's your
What's your
favorite
favorite?
form of weather?
Well, I like taking walks in like clear moonlit nights and and I love if it weren't for the having to shovel it, I would love uh love snowy terrain areas. I feel like it just I vibe with it more than I do grass.
Honestly, at the risk of pissing you off, I listened to that description and I just thought to myself, hashtag moon-pilled night maxer.
Listen, you've never truly enjoyed a walk until you just like have like an earbud in just walking through a park lit by the street lamps with the moon overhead.
Honestly, I know what you're talking about and I kind of appreciate it. Mostly just off the idea of, hey, I used to work extremely long nights and it's just like, yeah, sometimes you kind of have to appreciate the natural radiance of a moonlit night. I just thought, damn, she's reading her Tinder account.
See,
Bitch,
these
I
Tinder
haven't-
didn't.
Bitch,
I imagine that Alco's Tinder would look like a fucking nightmare.
I mean, would Alco use Tinder? I feel like by the time she hits 30, this girl is just, I don't even know, femcell affectionate?
Femcell.
Femcell in the
Derogatory.
same vein of Juniper Atkiss.
Fair enough.
I say femcell derogatory.
Understandable. I'm just here like the woman just shows up in a plain white tee and blue jeans and just goes, I can flicker time. Don't worry about it. I'm just here to get paid.
She has
That's
the
a
same
keeper in my
energy.
books.
She has the same energy as this lady here from the art gallery.
Art gallery.
Hang on. I'm gonna put it in the open chat too.
Understandable. While you're looking for that, let's return. But then he let out a discouraged sigh. How pathetic. He'd already been here 2 weeks, and thoughts of his hometown still made him sad. Perhaps feeling that he was being unfair to his new life, he composed himself and continued to wait patiently. As if having a passion for distractions, his afternoon returned to the sound of the rain once more. Waiting like this didn't seem to be particularly hard for him. He quietly endured the numbing cold and the hour alone with calm, deep breaths. Take a calm, deep breath right now with me, Chad. As the saying goes, good things come to those who wait. A strong point of his or not, he was astonishingly patient. It was certainly helping him out in this moment.
Today, well, at least this afternoon was not a day of relaxing breaths.
She, on the other hand, was livid. The profile of the transfer student had been explained to her on her way to the meeting room. She was told he lived his whole life up in the mountains without any electricity. That meant more than half of civilized society would have been an utter mystery to him.
なんて絶望的な断絶。戦後どころか戦前の話じゃない。ロビンソンにも程がある。
I don't even know who that is. Let's check Google real quick. Let's see.
Google Matt.
Robinson Crusoe is an adventure novel by Daniel Defoe, published in 1719. The book is about a fictional character who survives a shipwreck and must survive on an island for many years. The story is considered a classic along with the Odyssey and Don Quixote. I wonder if this one has a purpose as well. She had every right to be angry. His village had apparently remained isolated in the mountains for many years. Contact with villages in the foothills of the mountains only occurred once a month or so, which was unfathomable in modern Japan. Although expressways in Japan the old national railways now spanned the country like arteries, it wasn't entirely possible for a mountain village like his to exist. But she couldn't imagine how someone born to such circumstances would think or live. If you had to be isolated, where would you want to be? My brain wants to go snow-covered woods, but at the same time, I don't know. I think that's more of this game giving me ideas, but at the same time, it feels preferable to a desert island or living in the middle of nowhere, you know?
Yeah. I actually living in the middle of nowhere, Kansas would be fine.
I mean, I don't want to be a dirt farmer, that's the thing.
Here's the thing. I isolated myself for most of my, adult life. I was not doing well mentally, and I basically shrunk in on myself a lot. That was not healthy. I missed out on a lot of fun times with my friends, and I regret that. I don't want to go full hermit anymore. I want to be with people.
Honestly, it's perfectly understandable. Realistically, it's just like humans need each other. Mm-hmm. We may think otherwise, but individualism only gets you so far. What I'm saying is we're social creatures.
電気がないって
I have no real
村に行き渡っていないだけで公衆電話ぐらいはあったんですよね。
なかったそうだよ。こっちに暮らすようになってまず驚いたのが電話だそうだし。
Imagine not knowing how phones work.
電話って便利ですね。なんて真顔で言われてね。そういえばそうだなぁと再確認させられたぐらいだよ。
She shot a sidelong glare his way as he laughed. It seemed that the naivete of this country boy had cheered up Mr. Yamashiro a bit.
駐在もいないってことか。うちも実家は山奥ですから、電気が通っていないのはありえないとは言いませんけど。そいつ、学校も知らないんですか？
They don't even have a school in the mountains?
うん。どんなものかは知っていたそうだけど、実際来るのは今日が初めてらしい。それで緊張していたのかな。あまり会話も弾まなかった。ああいうのも野生児っていうのかな。狼に育てられた狼少年みたいな。あ、いや、探検隊の話だね。
Okay, you know what, Red? Maybe he's a little on thin ice with a comment like that.
Yep.
怖いな、青崎くん。冗談だって。そう睨まないでくれ。大丈夫。話してみた感じ、おとなしい子だったから。なんていうか、言葉の通じない小動物みたいな感じ。
Mr. Yamashiro, extremely eatable. Who would have thought?
Would have thought?
山城先生、その例え、気休めになってませんから。
As she gave her blunt reply, she tried to simulate in her mind what life without electricity would be like, but the thought of it took her sour mood from bad to worse. After all, it was a world she had never known. Every now and then, I just think about how you kids would never survive without your telephones and your iPads and your tac-tac, and I'm just going, neither would the adults at this point.
Nope.
Also, hello, Proxy. I'm doing the thing that people have been telling me that I should be doing more often, and reading a visual novel to people. Is this ASMR? No. What made you think it would be like that?
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's because we're here. We're not gonna let them do that.
She could understand why the teachers had given up. She, too, wanted to give up and return to her warm bed, but her good-for-nothing pride was holding her hostage. Not only did the teachers believe that she was up to the task, but she also believed she could do it. It wasn't that easy to go back on her word no matter how bad things looked after the fact. She walked along the hallway, the rain pattering in the background. The meeting room was already in sight. With a furrowed brow, she fixed her long hair in anticipation of meeting the unknown stranger within. Her elegant strides were like those of a confident general going into battle.
いや、青崎くん、君を信頼してる僕だけど、念のため確認しておくよ。なんていうか、優しくね。
And then,
笑顔とか作れないかな。
and then Aoko, being belligerent, does her best to be nice, but she doesn't smile the entire time.
作り笑いは苦手です。一応努力しているつもりですが。
Now that's relatable. If I can smile, I'll smile, but I'm bad at faking it.
ああ、
Hashtag relatable.
それはよかった。
Ha 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 ha.
いやー、ほんとよかった。青崎くんにも苦手なものってあったんだね。
Mr. Yamashiro's shoulders slumped the second they reached the meeting room. As he put his hand at the door, his eyes seemed to say, "Be nice, please."
No.
This only made her more irritated.
わかってるわよ。愛想が悪いってのは。でも笑顔なんて意識して作るものじゃないんだし。だいたいそういうインスタントな人付き合いなら飛び丸の方が向いてるって。
I hear the name Toby Maru, and I'm just thinking to myself, he's the last person you should ask. She sighed about her social shortcomings, but then it occurred to her that being called into school on a day off while sleep deprived wasn't anything to smile about anyway. He also thought the person responsible for this mess would be better off attending an elementary school. It might not be his fault, but neither was it her duty or obligation to do the teacher's work for them. Yeah, teachers to teach, imagine that, at the very least. They could have used their brains and organized all this on a normal school day. Another complaint she wanted to voice later.
いや、というか敵。なんであろうと敵。悪いけど、情状酌量以前に敵。間が悪いのはお互い様っていうか、ほんと、なんでよりにもよってこんな忙しい時に。
What are you busy with, sleep?
I mean, I feel her right there too. Just like, let's face it.
間が悪いのは。
It's your day off. You trying to sleep in, catch some Z's, catch some firsts you didn't get a chance to get. I'd be mad too.
Honestly, I can relate. It's just like, hey, look at that. I could be spending my time banking rest for the days ahead, but you're not going to let me do that, are you?
You bastard. You monsters. You shitty adults.
Her pounding headache from a lack of sleep had boosted her aggression by 10%. No matter how harmless the guy on the other side of the door may be, anyone who disturbed her sleep was the enemy. And just as she was reaching her peak annoyance, Mr. Yamashiro opened the door to the meeting room. The room slowly slid into view. She didn't care for formalities. Just looked straight ahead and stormed into the room. And found herself face to face with a most unusual opponent. Before we go on, let's see from another perspective. Turning back the clock just a little. You don't have to do anything. For some, these words are a priceless luxury. For others, they are an unbearable torture. For the proactive girl, it was definitely the former, though she'd be too suspicious of the motives of anyone giving her such a gift to accept it. For the passive boy, it was definitely the latter, a bitter thorn that made him homesick, though at this very moment his mind was still distracted with the wait for his face to reveal any discontent. He maintained perfect posture as he stared at the gray sky. He had already waited a whole hour, but figured they must have had their reasons for making him wait. As long as he had the sound of the rain to soothe him, he could keep on waiting.
でも、そろそろ9時を過ぎるのか。どうなんだろう。
It's like a job interview. Don't worry about it. Just be diligent and keep waiting. He had been vaguely keeping track of the time as he listened to the rain. Due to the holiday, the school building was completely silent, except for the patter of the rain on the window. The mood felt as damp as the air. It was then he heard the heavy clatter of footsteps approaching.
よかった。忘れられているかと思った。
He could hear two sets of footsteps, one heavier set belonging to an adult. He breathed a sigh of relief as the door slid open.
すまないね。随分とお待たせしちゃって。
The first person he saw was a man wearing glasses and an awkward smile. That's Mr. Yamashiro, the one who brought me here. Aw, man.
ってあれ里中先生いないんですか？ひどいな。話し相手になってあげてと言ったのに。
Wow, they ditched him. Mr. Yamashiro scratched his head, looking increasingly apologetic. And then, from behind him, with a tight-lipped expression that made it clear she didn't want to be there, a dark-haired girl with a determined look in her eyes appeared.
It's him, generic protagonist.
I mean, he's not very generic. Look at this man. Look at his dark, sullen eyes. This extremely 80s haircut.
Yeah. His clear bandages.
Sojiro gulped. The sound of the rain on the window faded into nothingness. That's when he knew. This was how it felt when time stood still. Think about that for later. It's her. It's Miss Blue Sky.
Look at her eyes. Look
Why are
at
they?
them.
Why are they so blue?
Why are they so blue? What's going on with your eyeballs? You okay? You have a condition?
I appreciate her hair vents.
If anything, think about this for a moment. You see this art style? You remember?
Yes.
You remember famed saber servant Miyamoto Musashi?
Yep.
Same artist.
Of course.
She blinked quickly a few times as if taken aback. Why was anyone's guess? The boy.
She didn't want to be here, bro.
It's correct. The boy was everything she expected a naive country boy to look like. However, she felt something she couldn't understand.
Why was he so goddamn attractive?
Why does he have bandages around his neck?
That's the real question.
He's special.
Why did he have such a beautiful skin tone?
There's our homie. There's Sono G.
His eyes whitened slightly as if taken aback. The reason was obvious. They were both taken aback by the obviousness of it. Putting his feelings into words was a different matter altogether. I'm sorry, guest, you gotta head out?
Yeah, I gotta head out.
But
Oh.
yes.
Alright, be well.
Later, homie.
It was nice having you. I will spill salt with you later.
I'm very excited.
Oh god.
So we will never know exactly what he experienced in that moment.
He's never seen a city girl before. My god.
This music feels extremely Persona 2.
A little bit, actually, yeah.
That's when it hit him. He sensed he'd been touched by the hands of destiny.
I'm gonna make this girl my wife.
紹介するよ。彼が転入生の静木宗十郎くん。
I don't particularly like this translation for it because there should be an H right here.
Yeah.
Wait, is it Suzuki or Suzuki?
It's Shizuki.
Oh, Shizuki.
Like
Yeah,
how
that
this,
is a little weird.
like how this Y right here doesn't help the name Sojiro flow.
Yeah, bro, the way it's spelled is super weird to me. What the fuck? It doesn't spell. It does not spell quite right to me. Like, you know how I'm used. You've seen how we're used to seeing Sojiro being spelled, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
And even then, it's not even so Jiro, it's so Juro.
yeah, and that's even weirder. Like, what the fuck? What are you doing here, guys?
I mean, I just look at it and go, welcome to the world of this wouldn't be in English anyway, so I'm gonna keep what I can out of it.
Welcome to the world of fan
こっ
translations.
ちの彼女が
This isn't even a fan translation, this is official.
This is official? The fuck?
Hmm? I paid money for this.
You fool. You foolish
I'm-
fool.
I mean, technically the Batheads paid for it, but you know.
You fools. You foolish fools. What have you done?
And this is the girl that will be showing you around. Wait, no, he already said this, don't worry about it.
うちの生徒会長で休日を押して新しい仲間の案内役を買って出てくれた青崎青子くんだ。
Her name is Blue Blue.
This is it. This is that Bluey show I keep on hearing about.
This isn't family friendly.
His voice and the sound of the rain seemed distant. This is how they first met. Such was their start for better or worse. Like the ephemeral beauty of fireworks. Like happy festival fireworks.
Oh no. I have a sudden dread come over me. Where's Waka?
Don't worry about it. We don't have to worry about that one.
Hanabi.
It was commonly believed among the students that Aoko was always in a foul mood. But this gossip was 90% prejudice, as Aoko simply didn't have time to be irritated 24/7. The reality was she simply didn't want to explain herself all the time, and therefore seemed angry about something, obvious or not. This
Damn,
idle
bro, you
gossip.
need to-
I'm sorry?
No, I'm saying like, damn, girl, you need to go take a nap.
They won't let her, that's the problem.
Unfortunate.
This idle gossip did, however, lead to her earning the title of one of the school's 7 deadly threats. The remaining 10% of gossip was right on the mark. Aoko herself often had the feeling that her tendency to feel animosity towards harmless things was akin to what a chronic headache sufferer might experience. My girl's got chronic migraine, understandable.
Gotta get you some Tylenol, the extra strength stuff.
Just look at her and just go, Peggy, get me my BC headache powder and a glass of water.
Ugh.
Today fell under that 10%. But today her anger was pure, and her childish and selfish display was befitting of her actual age. Which is 17, by the way. The meeting room was dimly lit, awash in the colors of the rain. To reduce electricity costs, school regulations forbid the use of lights during the day. This was the setting the three of them found themselves in. Her first impression was that his calm demeanor reminded him of a field of wildflowers. In spite of his perfect posture, his overall air felt placid, tame even, compared to your teacher calling him a feral wild child.
Also, his tan suddenly disappeared between pictures.
Don't worry about it, he's a mountain man. I don't even know. Would you be more likely to get a tan in the mountains than not?
Oh yeah, you could more likely be getting a tan in the mountains.
And though describing him as meek would be going too far, at the very least he was passive. Even through his uniform, she could see that he was thinner than average. His dark hair was unkempt, and he came across as a wholly forgettable boy. Look at the boy. If she had to look at him in a more positive light, she would describe him as more of a young man than a boy. Say it with me now, boy.
Boy.
It was his calm demeanor that made him seem more mature. Was that the cause of Aoko's reasonless reaction? He seemed almost too at home in the meeting room, and she was left with the impression that it was her and the teacher, not this outsider, who were the guests here. Well, considering a teacher left him alone in this meeting room for a solid hour with nothing to do, I can kind of understand. Why are you so angry? He felt an unidentifiable aggravation building within her, almost as if her right to be here was in question. Aoko felt herself raising her natural defenses.
信じられない。私、今わけもなく怒ってない。
She hated not understanding things, her own emotions in particular. It pained her less than you would imagine for a perfectionist like her, but it still nagged her like a thorn in her side.
いやーほら青崎くん挨拶してあげなくちゃ。
Mr. Yamashiro's attempt to relieve the tension was equally irritating. Look at this man. This man has never had a win in his life.
挨拶？
After casting a nasty glance in the teacher's direction, Aoko turned to face the boy. From an outsider's perspective, it might have looked like a stare down. And in that instant, the culmination of her emotional state hurtled toward the innocent boy and skewered him.
Yeah, 待たせたね、しずきくん。
Hearing his name, Sojiro came to his senses. His stunned gaze shook loose. He took a deep breath to clear his head. Once again, breathe deeply, Chad. In, out. Talking it up to his nerves, Mr. Yamashiro broke out a smile and turned to the girl standing beside him.
紹介するよ。彼が転入生のしずき宗十郎くん。で、こっちの彼女がしずきくんの案内役。うちの生徒会長で休日を押して新しい仲間の案内役を買って出てくれた青崎青子くんだ。
Having been introduced by Mr. Yamashiro, the girl took a step forward. Her eyes were merciless. I mean, look at him.
He's burgundy, so.
Why you so blue?
What the heck, you scaring us?
Her stare, an unspoken threat to violently trample her opponent. Sojiro, on the other hand, managed to keep his own composure despite the shock at how confrontational she appeared. He had never been greeted quite like this before, but supposed mistakenly that this was how people treated each other in the city. Stop staring at me with them big old blue eyes. The exchange must have looked quite dramatic to an onlooker. A girl ready to brawl. An earnest country boy desperate to understand. It was some murderous limbo, especially for anyone in that room with them. Like Mr. Yamashiro, for example, it's what he deserves. While he had thought he had made the right decision in choosing an honor student to help him out, he was in an inexplicably bad mood, and the tension in the air was undeniable. Once again, you woke her up on a day off. What did you expect? It was this moment that he realized his failure. His realization had come far too late. One false move, and this girl, for whom no problem was too large, would become a storm that would rock the very foundations of the school. Just as the almighty Joker card could bring either fortune or disaster, the sole teacher who had been present at the time would come to bear the blame for the scandal that ensued.
イケてる。二人とも気は合うようだね。
This is where the rim shot would go if I had one.
それじゃあ、
hold on, wait,
僕
hold
はこ
on.
の
I
辺
think
で
I
いい
got
かな。
something for you. Hold on, I got something for you.
Oh boy.
Hold on, hold on.
This is the part where she turns around and throws a chair at him.
That's not what I wanted. That is going on for too long.
Womp womp.
There we go.
Thank you.
I wanted that.
Mr. Yamashiro laughed nervously at the womp womps as he crept toward the door.
I'm sorry.
僕は職員室にいるから終わったら来るように。いいかい青崎くん。くれぐれもだぜ。なんていうか生徒会長としての度量の広さをこの際僕に信じさせてほしいかな。
You know, part of me wants to go. Student council tends to be a little bit of a school-specific figurehead type of thing, but at the same time, you're putting way too much pressure on this girl. I'm just looking at it and you go, why is she responsible for this exactly? Because she kind of... I don't even know. Is she a problem solver? We don't know yet. Mr. Yamashiro left, leaving the two in a locked-eyed state, one in which one set of eyes was doing all the glaring. It's okay, girl, you can throw a chair in and never mind, he left. Small victory nonetheless, you know? No one got hurt. Hopefully.
Yet.
All that remained in the room was an artless boy. And a cross-armed, guarded girl. Again, what's that thing on your neck? The two lingered in silence. They resembled shogi players agonizing over their first moves, though it was only Aoko who was reading so much into the situation. She decided to put her irritation aside for the time being. With no reason to feel revulsion for him in the first place, she sighed deeply and faced Sojiro.
まあいいわ。山城先生がヒルアンドンなのは今に始まったことじゃないし。それで、あなた名前は?
Her tone was nothing if not reproachful, though he had done nothing to offend her. But the boy failed to pick up on it. Incapable of such venom himself.
ああ、静木宗十郎かな。君は青崎さんだったね。
You can tell how passive he is in the way he speaks, huh?
He is good boy. He's just doing his best.
My
He
man
does-
is whipped.
He doesn't understand what's going on here. For whatever reason, he came across as happy in his response.
さんはいいわ。柄じゃないから。
Don't call her ma'am.
こっちは静木くんでいい？
いいって何が？
だから呼び方。くんづけでいいかって聞いてるの。
Damn, girl, I know that you're not sleeping well, but you don't have to take it out of the new guy. He just got here.
I don't think he understands honorifics, and that might be an issue too.
Yeah, it's also true, but it's still though. Take the hit, girl. Damn.
Drink some water. You
I
s-
just noticed
water.
that there's a fucking massive ass stain on from whenever my fucking dish fell over and a bunch of ketchup splattered against the wall and it looks like a fucking blood stain.
Oh.
Jesus.
I'm gonna need
Dr-
some I'm gonna need like a stain stick or something.
Drink some water. I should go get some more water. I will be right back. If you could, tell the chat about your day, you two.
Oh well, I didn't do much today. I've just been kind of chilling, vibing, doing the usual thing.
The day was long and tiring, but it was fine considering, because now I'm officially on vacation, and I'm gonna be on vacation for the rest of the entirety of next week, so yay for me. And then after that, back to actual work. But yeah, I'm gonna be doing a whole bunch of stuff and getting my birthday ready.
Yay!
Also, just getting my sleep schedule back in order. Because fuck me running.
I thought your sleep schedule was pretty consistent.
My sleep schedule is awful. I'm waking up at 3, and I'm not waking up at 3 anymore. I'm waking up at 1.
Oh.
And that is mainly due to the fact that my cat loves to scream into the middle of the night.
Hold on, I'm posting this here. Hold on. Oh, not here. Here. I'm posting this in a place. Ugh, God. Sorry, I'm just eepy today.
I'm EP right now.
Oh, God. Oh, God, I'm losing my mind, Red. I never noticed that stain before. It's perfectly in a way that I never saw it. I don't know how. Hold on, I'm gonna go get some like paper towels and see if I can't fix this.
Oh yeah, Belle, have you been watching the Norfolk Wizard game?
Back.
Welcome back. Also, Belle, have you watched the Norfolk Wizard game?
No, I need to.
It's good stuff. It's really good. Like, legitimately, I'm enamored with these characters.
Surprise!
Honestly, I would say that you would really love fucking Sybil, aka our resident goth girl of the group. She is absolutely wonderful, and I'd say that the weakest in terms of character would have to be like our basketball boy Samson. But that's not saying it's a bad thing. He's a good character, but he's the weakest out of 4 really good characters. The best character is the newest guy we saw, aka Parker Knickerbocker.
Ah!
Yeah, no, the name's silly, but when you hear him talk and when you see him interact with the antagonist of his little mini episode, yeah, no, that boy does things to you. He does things.
Really now, Red?
Yes. Like he's genuinely it's generally a really nice like character type. I really like a character who's like, how do I describe him? He has an energy of he's tired but also very intimidating, and while he is very spindly looking, he does have power to back him up in terms of his magic ability. I don't want to spoil what he can do, but yeah, no, it's genuinely some of the most entertaining stuff I've seen to date. And then we got Sybil, who is just wonderful. Just a small goth gremlin creature making morbid art for everyone to see, and just god damn it, I love that. And then we have Bill. Bill's a fucking conspiracy theory cryptid hunter. I love him. He's great. He's a big tub of fun. And then we got Samson, who's like, he's all right. He's okay. He has a story I understand. He has a story that I can find very relatable. But my problem with this episode is the fact that he's a basketball player being played by a guy who literally knows nothing of basketball.
That's rough.
It's very funny though. Because you're dealing with two dudes who know nothing of basketball, and they just try to play it off like, oh boy, when you've listened to that fucking dialogue that's spewing out about how the basketball game's going, like, oh, it hurts, but it's really funny.
I come back to the sound of people not knowing about basketball fans not knowing basketball. What do you mean? Shut Up and Jam Gaiden is good.
No, I'm talking about the Norfolk Wizard game, aka the Mage the Dark Ages, Mage the Ascension game played by the Alpha Booza crew.
Understandable. I would like to get into World of Darkness at some point. I'm just over here like, hey, at least Hunter the Parenting is treating me good until I do that.
Hey, no worries, I got you. I have a Vampire the Masquerade book ready and ready to go whenever you want to play it, because this game actually does make me want to start DMing that.
Ooh.
Yeah, and I'm taking care of the quote-unquote blood stain down here.
Oh gee, doesn't that sound like a ritual of the night right there? These jokes don't make sense, and I'm sorry for them. That being said, anyway, look at my decent mountain boy.
Dealing with this awful girl's problems.
Hey. Don't blame her, it's Trump.
She's still awful.
いや、すごく。
The boy replied immediately, as if it was his natural response, but quickly second-guessed himself.
いや、いいんだ。ごく一般的なんだろう。しずきくんで頼む。君は青崎でいいんだよな。
え、よろしく。
She followed her blunt reply with a swift turn away from him. While she was hardly thrilled at the prospect of the task at hand, it had been entrusted to her, and was her personal policy to see it through to the end.
悪いけど、優しくしてあげる気はないから。時間も惜しいし、手早く行くわよ。
She wants to go back to sleep so bad.
Yeah, no, I feel that, but seriously though, you don't have to be so rude. Like I get it, you're tired, but you gotta learn to reel it in. You know what I'm saying? Reel that angry, reel that annoyance in.
As far as I'm learning from this story, nobody really knows how to deal with her.
それは助かる。やっぱり時間は大切だ。
Alco's blunt rancor was lost on him once again. You see, I can already see these two kind of go well together. You're extremely high-strung city girl, and you're pleasant but know-nothing mountain boy.
Yeah, homeboy just trying to do his thing.
I don't even think he's trying to do a thing. He's just trying to live.
I'm just trying to live.
Humans tend to be overly conscious about being ignored, whatever form that takes. But despite being peeved at landing none of her attacks, Aoko did her best to act professional and directed her guest into the hallway.
I'm just trying to live.
He's more offended that he's trying not to be offended. There was no sunlight in that hallway, nor any sign of life. This was more like a prison than a cave that was the meeting room. As it dawned on Aoko that the hallway matched her mood, she sighed once again.
まず聞いておくけど、山城先生から聞いたことは理解してる？
ああ、学校の仕組みについては分かった。この建物全部に同い年の人間がいるなんてちょっと想像できないけど。
そう、よかったわね。
Great! Aoko rubbed her forehead. This Sojiro kid had no idea what he was in for. Apparently, all he'd heard about school was that it was a place where a lot of people met to study. Well, I mean, that is true. High school teachers imparted to students their knowledge in various fields of study while fostering discipline and creativity. Kinda curious about that last bit. But never did Aoko imagine that she would have to explain the concept of school itself to someone. Yes, fundamentals were important, but this was absurd. She had serious doubts whether he could even handle classes, but Mr. Yamashiro insisted that things would work out somehow. Sojiro had managed to pass the transfer exam after all. Barely.
ま、私には関係ないけど。
You're making it your problem. Aoko grumbled mentally as she walked down the hallway. She consoled herself with the fact that today would be the only day she'd spend with this boy out of time. Or at least she tried to keep it that way.
青崎、
He asked calmly, trying to get her attention.
何？
こっちも一つ聞いていいかな。
Then she immediately just goes,
No.
だから何？
俺の気のせいだと思うんだが、君はまるで何かを睨んでいるように見える。やはり今朝は悪いものでも。
Oh, you can tell that right from the jump. Sounds accurate. His gaze revealed earnest concern, as if asking her if she remembered to eat breakfast. Boy's an empath. You see those dark, almost pupilless eyes? Clearly he sees more than just people.
Indeed.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
it was like another hammer to her head. It was true that Aoko had been glaring at Sojiro the entire time. Glaring red-hot daggers, in fact. Not just at him, but the universe. Even on her best days, her roommate used to remark,
青子の視線は普通の人には厳しいわ。もう少し多くのことに寛大になるべきね。
she'd been warned. She had been warned that her emotions were so naked on her face that people treated her like a powder keg. How naive could the boy be that he could not pick up on this? He sees the void. It's exactly. He sees with eyes unclouded by hate and the natural emissions of the city.
私をバカにしてるってわけじゃなさそうよね、この場合。
Even she found her own attempt to reassure herself unconvincing. It began to dawn on Aoko, far too late, that compared to her, this laid-back transfer student might as well have been from another planet.
いいわ。言葉にしないとわからないようだから言うけど、まるでじゃなくて、ズバリそうなの。あなたの気のせいじゃなくて、私は視線で遠回しに感情を表現してたの。いちいち声に出すのも、会話にするのも面倒だから。
She might as well be wearing a sign that says, "Beware of cat."
Beware of cat and catty personality.
In response to her words, the Martian clapped his hands together.
なるほど。どうしてそうしたいのかはわからないが、確かにそっちの方が手っ取り早い意思表現だ。
Sojiro accepted her reasoning without argument, though he still had no idea what kinds of emotions she was trying to express. It was as if he could hear the words but didn't grasp the meaning. Ideas that should have connected were instead separated into blocks.
He's so
確か
dumb.
にずれてるわ、こいつ。
Don't worry about it, he's just a little ignorant.
He's special. Don't worry about it.
Mr.
He's just
Yamash,
a little boy.
Mr. Yamashiro's words made sense to her now. What was odd about this boy went beyond naivete. A stranger in a strange land he may be, but it was only civilized to give him some Let me try that again. A stranger in a strange land he may be, but it was only civilized to forgive him some jet-lag-induced confusion.
じゃ、とりあえずあなたの教室
Weird
に行くか
fucking
ら。
way to say the sentence.
It's a Nasuism, I'm going to assume. Man likes picking flowers in his garden, and then ripping out the seeds, and then replanting the flowers, and then picking the flowers again.
Insanity.
Mm-hmm. She had regained her composure. Sojiro raised his hand and stopped in his tracks. Nasu sure does love the color purple. I too love the color purple. You should watch it. It's got Oprah Winfrey in it.
Ooh, yes. Also, I'm gonna dip out too. I can't. My body is officially done for the day, so I'll talk to you guys later. Have a wonderful rest of your stream, and also, hopefully, this girl gets a better attitude.
I'm sure she will. She's a mainstay in the greater universe for a reason. If anything, I hope you enjoy your vacation as well.
Appreciate you, and I hope to see you all again very soon. Later on, everybody. Bye.
Have a good night. Naoko waited for Sojiro to continue. The boy was patient to a fault. She rubbed her forehead with her hand again, nursing a vague feeling of uneasiness.
これもちょっとした疑問なんだが、なんで君は怒ってるんだ？怒るのが商売とか、そういう家柄の人なのか？
This boy
my boy, my son.
This boy keeps asking questions he has no idea what the answers are going to be. A long silence. Though she knew it wouldn't change the situation, she remembered her regret at answering the phone that morning.
Also, can I just say my brain is fucking rotted to the fucking core? Because when I look at this school, I think of another building with a similar fucking build structure, though it's more of a castle, and it's shot mostly at night, at the start of certain type of videos.
My brain kinda wanted to see it as, yes, they built this place after Versailles.
It's a lot better than what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
You guys know who you know!
She repeated this thought like a mantra in an attempt to keep her impulses in check. Like a certain somebody I know.
別にあなたのせいじゃないから気にする必要はないわ。ただ、この一瞬とお昼まで眠っていた場合を計りにかけたら、あまりに利益の違いがあって頭を抱えただけよ。
Honestly, still relatable to an extent. With that vague answer, she started to walk again, and turned her gaze away from this rude stranger named Sojiro Shizuki. While what constitutes normal is certainly up for debate, most would undoubtedly refer to him as so. He was a simple and nice boy with nondescript features. If he were an ice cream flavor, he would be vanilla. And Sojiro found Aoko to be very businesslike and full of life. There was a certain purpose to her movements, as they began and ended in an orderly fashion. The way her fingers raced when she pointed at things. The way she made her way across hallways and classrooms. The way she would occasionally glance back at him to make sure he was keeping pace. Each and every movement was so impressive that he couldn't take his eyes off her. Aoko showed him to his homeroom Class C of the 11th grade. The room certainly displayed more of a human touch than the previous meeting room, but Sojiro was none the wiser as to its function. Aoko gave a brief explanation before they visited the individual subject classrooms, as well as the gym, cafeteria, locker room, and school infirmary. Imagine being called vanilla. Honestly, I can believe it. Sojiro asked so many questions that it made time pass before they reached the AV room on the second floor.
まずいな。
Sojiro stopped, looking genuinely concerned. This is the most emotion he's shown this entire time.
あと20分経つと1時だ。
嘘でしょ？うちの校舎そんな広くないわよ。
The tour had begun around 10, which meant that 3 hours had passed. A tour of a school shouldn't take anywhere near this long.
そうだったわね。行く先々で根掘り葉掘り聞かれちゃ、そりゃ何時間でも経つわ。
What's worse,
日が暮れていないのが不思議なくらいね。
What's worse, basic or vanilla? Honestly, it really depends on the context. If you're basic, it tends to have a little bit of a standing of, I don't know, rigidity, understanding what you're going for, just not necessarily having to parse things out unnecessarily. Vanilla just means that you're kind of plain, but you also have something to work off of, you know? I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it without necessarily thinking about the negative aspect, you know? Basic is worse, vanilla stuff is tasty. I mean, French vanilla. Vanilla bean. Basically, we can bougie this up as hard as you want to. Does that mean it's still vanilla? Yes.
But it's still good.
Compared to something like basic, where it's just like, you know, cardboard is basic, drywall is basic, white paint is basic, titanium hot, as the Bob Ross would say. And then, but at the same...
Does it also have the screws borrowed from his aunt?
I mean, possibly. I also look at it and just go, basic could also mean foundational, so, you know. Again, it's about context. Naoko glared at Sojiro. Sojiro glared at the floor. She was being sarcastic, of course, knowing full well he would never pick up on it. To her surprise, he looked down apologetically, unable to hide his dejection.
なんだこいつ。ちゃんとしてるっちゃ。
The guy before her now was nothing like earlier. In contrast to seeing his once impenetrable veneer when they first met, she found herself feeling sympathetic. Momentarily, at least, until her irritation returned in full force.
で、何がまずいの？覚えることが多すぎてパンクしたなんて言わないでね。
Why you gotta be like that?
いや、それもあるけど、学校のことは別にして1時になるとまずいんだ。
Sojiro's gaze wandered as if he was worried about something. If he was worried about the weather, he would have had a hard time seeing it as there were no windows in this hallway.
へえ、時間を気にするってことは用事があるのね。そう。人の予定を引っかき回しておいて、自分だけ好きなようにやろうって言うんだ。
You don't even want to be here either. Don't worry about it.
なんだ、顔に似合わずいい人ね、君。
いや、褒めても何も出ないぞ。
Look at this man's face. This is a man who doesn't get that he was just insulted and is just trying to make it work.
誰も褒めちゃいないわよ。
I recognize that face tell anywhere.
She yelled at him, unable to hold back her fury.
で、それで、一体何の用なの？
Sojiro's face lit up, as if he finally understood what she was asking him.
そこは秘密にしておきたい。
It's a secret to everybody. I'm sorry, the expressions on this girl are just like, this girl is built different. She's built weird. He said with a perfectly straight face.
慣れ始めたつもりだったけど、こいつのこういったテンポに失神しそうになるわ。
Her frustration was natural. Still, she did everything she could to stifle her feelings and fake a smile.
しずきくん
She took a step forward.
秘密だってば。
Feeling the mood change drastically, Sejiro took a step back. And another. And another. No matter how many steps he took back, she kept edging toward him. She was smiling, but he thought he could see the blood boiling beneath her skin.
これ最後の質問にしとくわね。あなた私をからかって楽しい？
He had no intention of mocking her, though at this point he doubted presenting any evidence to prove this would do much to erase that forced smile on her face.
わかった。説明する。
His arms raised in surrender. She halted her advance and freed her face from that unseemly smile.
実は1時からアルバイトがあるんだ。でもここはそういうの禁止なんだろ？
そうだけど、あ、禁止されてるから秘密にしようと思ったの？バカね。それなら許可さえ下りていれば問題ないわよ。
Imagine having a part-time job in school and having to hide it. Honestly, I'm just thinking to myself, it's kind of a weird stipulation in the first place, isn't it? It's just like you gotta mix money somehow.
Yeah.
知ってる。試験の時に許可はもらってる。
へえ。
Naoko's face lit up as she realized he might not be the piece of work she thought him to be. Yet.
しかし、許可は一つしかもらえなかった。
How many jobs do you have?
一つって、あなた掛け持ちでバイトしてるの？
これでも2件減らしたんだ。生活費だけで大変なのに、学費まで稼がなくちゃいけない。なのに、働き先は一つだけというのはあんまりだと思わないか。
This man was working 3 jobs. How does that work?
いや、
Very,
あんまりな
very
のはあなたの方だと思う
difficult
けど。
thing.
Though still irritated, her opinion of him changed a little. She was impressed that he was able to take care of his tuition and living expenses all on his own. She could also empathize with having no time to oneself. Her anger began to subside. I mean, with 3 jobs, it works a lot. I mean, is that supposed to be a pun? The words part-time job were about the last thing she'd ever expect to hear out of this country boy's mouth.
そういうことなら仕方ないわね。いいわ、行きなさいよ。事情は分かったから。
青崎はいいのか？
She had no idea what his question meant, but she at least understood he was trying to be considerate. Which also took her by surprise. She figured he'd just be... She figured he'd be just as dense about people's feelings as he was about everything else.
別に、私もこのまま帰るから。
First, though, she thought it best that they both stop by the faculty room. Mr. Yamashiro had mentioned the transfer procedures had already been completed, so all that remained was for him to sign off on her duties.
先生、案内終わりました。
それはお疲れ様。しずきくんもお疲れ様。それで校舎を回った感想はどうかな？
ありがとうございます。なんというか、とても学校ですね。
It's like a real school, this school. Can you believe that? What a school this school turned out to be. I can't wait to be schooled at this school of schooling.
そうかそうか。うん、明日から頑張りなさい。
She had no interest whatsoever in this pointless wrap-up meeting.
山城先生のことは気にしないでいいわ。教え子に厄介なことを押し付けてふんぞり返っているぐらい職員室が好きなんだから、何時間でも待ってるでしょ。いや、待ってるべきじゃない？
そうか。 青崎がいいんならいいんだな。
Look how earnest this boy looks right here. I'm just over here like, you know what? If whoever's got soggy emotes, I need you to post Dinky in it, because this is exactly what this guy looks like.
Dinky.
There it was again. Whatever Sojiro was getting at, Aoko had no idea.
それじゃ行くよ。今日はありがとう。
今日だけよ、今日だけ。
She shooed him away with her hand. His face bent into a broad smile, as if he found the gesture endearing. You know, only being here today for him. Don't worry about it, it's just for today. It was a softer expression than she had grown accustomed to seeing out of him. It was the kind of smile that would make anyone smile back. Well, most people at least. Naoko Aozaki didn't betray the slightest hint of a smile.
それじゃまた。
And with that friendly farewell, Sojiro walked toward the end of the hallway. Or so she thought. Or so she thought before he turned into the next class over. Sojiro headed straight for one of the classroom's windows. Whereupon he opened it with ease. The chilly November air filled the room as the soft sounds of the rain doubled in volume. In that instant, she realized his intention with opening the window. She really wished she hadn't.
いや、待て待て待て！
He already had one leg out of the window when she dashed to stop him. I don't get it. What's going on? Hey, yo, bro, don't do it. You got so much to live for. There's so much good out there.
何するつもりよ、あんたは！
何って、アルバイトに行くんだけど。
Is that what they call it?
その窓は人が出入りするところじゃないの。だいたいここ何階だと思ってるの？
She saw the light of understanding dawn in his eyes.
死ぬところだった。2階から降りたら危なすぎる。
危ないのはあんたの頭。
Her insult went right over his head. This boy is brainlet. I
He's
can
not
see.
brainlet. I don't think. I'm starting to get the idea that maybe he ain't human.
I'm pretty sure he's human. I think he's just the slightest bit ignorant.
あのね、
Who
こっ
looks
ちの
at a
窓から人は出入
window
りしないの。
like
さ
that
っき言っとく
and
べきだっ
thinks
た。
exit? No.
Somebody who's never had a second story glass window, that's who.
Who goes out through the window?
I don't. Have you ever seen a fireman?
That's not counting. That's for emergencies.
This is an emergency. This man's got to get to his job right now.
The fucking emergencies of. It ain't even late stage capitalism. It's like mid stage for them.
Don't even worry about it. It's the late 80s. It's the bubble economy. He's got to get that dollar right now.
Oh,
Holla
God.
holla.
Oh god, it's late era bubble where it's beginning to pop. Oh no.
Majima set the tax to 14%. Let's go and teach him a thing.
知ってるよ。時間がないんで慌ててたんだ。ありがとう。これからは気をつける。
You see right there, he just wanted to save some time by trying to find some stairs. Don't worry about it. And there he goes with that dinky smile again. He pulled his leg back inside and closed the window. His school uniform was soaking wet from the rain.
いいけど、私は別に。あなたがどこから外に出ようが関係ないもの。ただ、できれば私の前ではやらないでほしいだけよ。
You see right there, heroes go through the window all the time. Look at Superman. He's gone through a few windows, I'm sure, in some phone booths and Lois Lane's bedroom window. Don't worry about it.
それより、あなた、本当に明日から学校に来るの？
来るよ。不安だけど案内してもらったし。
He bid her farewell before running away down the hallway, tracking water everywhere. She'd hope he would walk down the stairs and leave the school entrance like a normal person.
大丈夫なのかあんなんで。
My brain wants to go yesn't. The image of him disappearing into the distance popped into her head in spite of her ire. She had no intention of spending any more time with him, and yet she felt strangely anxious. She couldn't tell if the feeling was fueled by concern or irritation. Why had she even gotten angry with this insignificant transfer student in the first place? I don't know, maybe self-termination right in front of you would make anybody upset.
Yeah.
A strange day with a strange transfer student resulting in strange emotions. It's quite strange, isn't it? Her head tilted as she reflected on what should have been a more enjoyable day than the irritating experience she just had.
いっか。どうせこれっきりなんだし。
The sound of the rain echoed quietly all around her. The gray sky seemed frozen in time. It was impossible to discern whether it was morning or evening. Mr. Yamashiro and Aoko were likely to be the only ones left at school. The unlit classroom looked overly gloomy and ominous as Aoko stood in it alone. She pulled up her left sleeve. Her dainty, unremarkable watch showed that it was almost 1 o'clock.
時間合ってる。
He looked out the window at the grounds below. He saw a boy in uniform running through the rain without an umbrella, a sight she must have seen before, but for whatever reason affected her far more than she wished. Naoko did not stop by the faculty room before heading home. While Mr. Yamashiro's offer to drive her home was tempting, she decided it would ultimately be far more satisfying to ruin his day and just as he had hers. Honestly, understandable. She walked as quietly as she could towards the entrance and opened her bright red umbrella. As she had predicted that morning, the rain was waning in the afternoon. At this rate, it would probably cease completely in an hour or so. The distant sunshine would likely have reached her by the time she arrived home.
ま、それも悪くないか。
Honestly, I kind of do like the framing of the last scene, that it's just all black except for this red umbrella.
Yeah.
She shrugged her shoulders in resignation. She neither liked nor disliked rain, but she found herself enjoying her walk home with her red umbrella in hand. The teachers at Misaki High School weren't fond of bright colors, so Aoko's red umbrella was an unusual sight. A ghost story about how the umbrella was once pure white had been making the rounds, but it featured Aoko instead of a ghost. It was with that umbrella that she made her way toward Misaki Station. Misaki Private High School took its namesake from the town it was in. The area was once a sprawl of farmland and woodland, but rapid growth over the last 10 years had led to unprecedented modernization. There were some who fought to preserve Misaki's natural treasures.
残すことには賛成ですが、それでは残すだけになってしまうでしょう。
With those words, the mayor snuffed out the voices of the minority and ushered in a long-term plan for new urban development. More than enough funds for the urban development were collected, and the unassuming town of Misaki became the largest municipality of Misaki City in merely 10 years. Even though it lacked the modernity of neighboring Yashirogi, I almost said the modernia,
The brain rot is real.
or the elegance of Misaki Hills.
それも当然よね。どういじくっても、もともとが山中の宿場町だし、山ごと切り崩すって言うんなら別だけど。
Urbanization had been contained to the lowlands around the station, with most of the hills and mountains still standing as they did 10 years prior. The exhaustion of funds succeeded in protecting the old Misaki where the citizens could not. It became a truly odd suburban town, welcoming an increasingly urban population with its vestiges of an old country charm. Misaki High School was a private school established long before the town's current state. The original campus, built 50 years ago, was located high up in the mountains, making its current location its second incarnation. The path to the old grounds was not only steep and remote, it had become an overground game trail with the passage of time. For these reasons, among others, Misaki High School had been shuttered until almost 20 years ago, when it received a donation from a department store chain that allowed for the construction of a new campus in the city. And thus, Misaki High School reopened its doors, the old woodland campus forgotten. In fact, most of the students attending Misaki High School were not from Misaki at all. The hardy, rustic people of this country town preferred prefectural schools to private ones. Truth be told, Aoko herself was one of them. All she had wanted after junior high was to move to Tokyo, where she had hoped to spend her days touring her favorite bands on her way to entering a public university. But her hopes were dashed with her sister's departure. So, here she was, walking alone in a town with only a red umbrella to keep her company on what should have been a day off.
思い返してみると、私の人生ってなんか災難続きっぽい。
Her frustration evaporated in the cold December air.
でもま、いっか。退屈だけはしないわけだし。
It wasn't boring, at least. Let's go. With those words, her mood brightened a bit as she left the school in her wake. The busier part of town met her at the bottom of the gently sloping road.
Matuyo!
I'm sorry?
Ikeo!
Okay, you're doing a thing, I see. Me, the Chaser fan, should actually know what you're talking about, but it took me by surprise. Anyway, look at those unique fashion clothes over there. Misaki's train station was brand new. Once looking no prettier than an abandoned factory, it had been renovated into a multi-purpose structure with huge department stores on its east and west sides. When the department stores first opened, Aoko and her friends had been impressed with their modern feel, but in time, the stores too became dated. There's beans over there.
Beans!
She had no shopping to do today, so she passed them by. What she really wanted to do was rest at a cafe, but she fought the urge, knowing her roommate would never let her hear the end of it as she frittered away her money. She looked back and blinked. For just a moment, she could have sworn she had seen something suspicious in the red dress out of the corner of her eye. It must have been her imagination. Whose footprints are these? The sixth sense chill she was experiencing down her spine was a familiar one at this point. She continued her walk home, brushing off the event as if it had never happened. In time, the chill faded, and all that was left was the sounds of the town. She sighed heavily. Once again, sigh with me, chat. As she imagined it, even if it had been all in her head, she was far from comfortable with the feeling that still lingered. I forget the Japanese crosswalk. Let's make that beeping noise. Some American ones do as well. If anything, my commute on the training arc has a few of those. Some even have voices, and it's just like, ah, yes, would be nice if we saw a little bit more of that. Urban development in this day and age, not likely.
夏場の方ってもう少しこう。
She grumbled under her breath.
波乱万丈、商売繁盛、商業無常と。そうそう、忙しさに愚痴を言っても始まらないわ。
Unfortunately, summer and bugs go hand in hand. She could see how bugs could be drawn to all the sweet stuff, all the sweet fruit. I like how bitter she is. She's definitely not your idyllic happy-go-lucky schoolgirl, is she? Rank with grease and heat, the kitchen was closed for the time being. The lunch rush had come and gone. But one last battle remained, dinner time. Only after the evening chaos could the kitchen crew remove their white armor and call it a day. In the midst of the war zone was a lone newcomer.
これ着るんですか?
His voice was uneasy, betraying how new he was.
気持ちはわかる。俺もどうかと思うけど、店長の言うことだから、もう笑顔で乗り越えてくれ。これも商店街の明日のためなんだとよ。本気で申し訳ないんだが、雨も止んだし、なんとか行ってきてくれないか。無事帰ってきたら晩飯おごってやっから。
Well, gee, that's a bit of an unexpected thing for how lo-fi this stream has been. Hello there, Raiders. My name is Megiddo Ichi, and apparently it's Uplink subbing again. Just to go, it's me. I bet you thought you'd seen the last, but no. Hello. Even still, my name is Megiddo Ichi, your local cyborg VTuber, aspiring voiceover artist. I'm kind of over here just like, I want to make you understand the concept of reading a book, so that's what we're doing tonight. And this is also Bell Umbra here to give live commentary as well.
I'm kind of just vibing because I don't exactly know where to jump into when speaking right now.
Understandable for sure. This is just like, hey, look at that. Dad's gonna read to you, and I hope you appreciate it. If anything, take this shout out as well.
Yay!
No, I'm walking in. I'm playing arcade games.
He's playing arcade games.
We got a pool table, no balls and no sticks. What the fuck? There's a huge lack of balls and sticks in this room.
I am over here just like there's a low-hanging fruit in that clip. Either way, welcome everybody to Witch on the Holy Night, also known as You've Heard of Fate. Get ready for the thing that's not Fate, but also low-key kind of relevant nonetheless. Even still. It makes me feel good so far. This game has good writing. It's purple. And as Eric Andre keeps going, what if it was purple? His bright orange co-worker clasps his hands together as if to beg for forgiveness as he saddled him with the unreasonable task. I am so hungry, so I'm gonna bounce for food. Hope you have a good stream, you two. I'm hoping it's a good stream nonetheless. How are we feeling, chat? How about you, Belle? Is the vibe still good?
It's good. Tired, but good.
I'm glad. It's a lazy Friday. If anything, I'm just over here like, let my voice do the talking for you. Is this ASMR-ent? Yes, it is. "10 years ago, Misaki City was a town of farm and woodland. But everything had changed. The front of the station was now lined with tall, multi-story buildings, and the residential areas were simply full of apartment complexes. The once rustic scenery around the station had long become a thing of the past. Shiro Inuzuka was the only place in the city that still contained vestiges of the old town, a pocket of the past inside an urban jungle. The road extended up a conspicuously high hill to an old resident district far from the hustle and bustle of the train station. Long ago, it had been considered unwise to build on high ground, so nobody lived above a certain elevation. Shiro Inuzuka, sitting as it did atop a hill in the middle of town, was no exception to that convention and had no residences to speak of. The asphalt continued for some time, eventually giving way to a mountain road that was swallowed into the cover of trees. A lone vending machine stood to mark the boundary between the town and beyond. Even the children knew that there was nothing beyond the new playground in development that so enthralled them. Well, that was not entirely true. There was nothing besides the haunted house.
Oh, fucking sake.
Aoko Aozaki traveled the long slope. Below her, she could see the whole of Misaki. The symmetrical town looked like a miniature set from this height. It would look like a painting if there had been a sea next to it, but unfortunately, Misaki City was very much landlocked. While it was overcast at the moment, the scene was quite breathtaking on clear evenings. Say, do you guys believe the term "write what you know" is consistent with every writer in some way? Depends on the writer. Is not gonna lie, me low-key making a point to read a book once a week while I'm doing my thing for the training arc more or less just goes, I know certain authors who kind of have a consistent theme in regards to what they know and understand, considering the people they keep around in their corner and what they like to write. And sometimes they just go completely off the walls with it and it just kind of spoils the meaning. The view was the one thing that made the arduous climb worthwhile, and today she had been denied even that.
雨の日は自転車も使えないし、1日に2回ぐらいバスでも通ってくれないもんかな、ほんと。
Naoko had been using this road to get to school for almost 2 years now, but the journey had never gotten easier.
あれ、鍵閉まったまま？アリス、まだ帰ってきてないんだ。
With a weary shrug, she put her hand on the rusty iron fence. Quietly, the heavy gates swung open as if to welcome her home. Oh hey, look everybody, it's Debussy. There sits atop a hill a haunted house. That is how the story, much shared around the town, used to begin. But fresh rumors about this house had sprung to life almost as fast as the town's modernization. Despite being dilapidated and abandoned for many years, lights can be seen inside the house at night. An angry murder of crows often gathers atop the hill before mysteriously vanishing. Children get lost in the fog, never to be seen again. Late at night, a shrieking sound can be heard all the way to town. This particular piece of slander was the one Aoko wished to discredit the most. The final rumor was of an eye-catching luxury car that sometimes made its way up and down the hill. The rumors spread and grew by the day. And while they grew, the house that everyone thought had rotted away was restored over the recent years. Deep in a wood on top of a hill that no one dared to approach. Like a ruin shrouded from view even on the brightest of days, stood a relic out of time, a building from a fairy tale. The house. It's a very, very, very fine house. Was the Kuonji mansion. Everyone in town knew about the witch's house on the hill. It was an unabashedly haunted house where Aoko Aozaki resided, for reasons known only to her. I swear this would make a solid audiobook. That's what I'm trying to achieve, baby! Needless to say, it was not really haunted. The Kuanji family home was a grand Western-style mansion with a long and storied history, stretching all the way back to England. It was too small to be a dormitory, yet too big to be called a house. It was like a sheet of raw iron. The main building contained as many as 3 normal houses worth of rooms and was surrounded by a large, all-encompassing courtyard. The perimeter of the grounds was surrounded by a high iron fence covered in thorny vines. There was also an annex to the main building. Given such extravagance, it was no wonder that it inspired rumors. To the town residents, the mere existence of such a lavish and out-of-place mansion on top of the hill was a cause for suspicion. Rumors, lies, and slander were the prices to pay for fame. With only 2 lodgers, it was hard to disagree with the perception that vampires must be living here. Like some sort of lunar legend. She put her hand on the front door. It was a grand double door that would have paired well with a brass lock, and yet it was secured with little more than a simple keyhole. Pushing it open with one hand, she entered the supposedly haunted house. And by the way, if vampires were not enough to scare you, ghosts were known to appear on certain nights. Much like the weather outside, the foyer was overcast with shades of gray. Perhaps by deliberate design, the architect had chosen not to include any lights in the entrance area. The ceiling was 2 floors high. The only light in the room came from the skylight. It was particularly gloomy on rainy days. On moonless nights, it was like the world itself ceased to be. Alko decided the drawing room, the east, would be a good place to rest, but knowing that she would not be able to relax until she changed clothes, she started up the stairs. The stairs curled up the wall to the 2nd floor hall. There was a 3rd floor attic as well, accessible from the far end of the hall. She had never set foot in there in the 2 years she had lived there, though. The Kuonji mansion was more or less divided into 2 things, east and west, like the Cold War or something. Alko had been given the entire east wing, but 2 rooms were more than enough as far as she was concerned. She had no desire to open a door that would trap you in a storybook world or lead to an attic that had only been used for storage these last 5 years. Alko's room was at the end of the east wing's long corridor. She had elected for a smaller room for no other reason other than that she thought it would be easier to clean. It was furnished with a large bed, her beloved mahogany desk, a wardrobe and chest for her clothes, and 2 9-shelf bookcases. That was the extent of what she brought from home. Her entire life of 16 years reduced to this. She had also borrowed the next room down for her own purposes.
そうだ、アリスにもらった見張りと壊れてないかチェックしないと。
She needed to see if the project she had been working on all night had borne fruit. The study next door served as proof of the life she had been living for the last year, and how different that life was from the one she had lived before. It was not a room for the person she had been. It was a room for the person she would eventually become, a place of solitude that only she could enter. Or so she thought.
壊れてるどころか、跡形もなく消え去ってる。やっぱ自己流アレンジはまだ早かったか。いいわよ。笑いなさいよ、コマドリ。
The noisy neighbor that had intruded upon her sanctuary flew away. While not exceptionally talented, Alko did not lack for effort and was not afraid to fail. One could have almost mistaken her approach for optimism. She changed out of her uniform and returned to the first floor. Down the stairs, she opened the door to the east wing into the corridor as dark as the cellar. The absence of windows meant it was pitch black without the lights on, so she flicked the switch and entered the nearby doorway. Hey Belle, look. Look at this brand new Sandy television they got.
God, we getting out the fucking GameCube for this one, boys.
Life with... Okay. It had been her idea to update the drawing room. The walls were decorated with extravagant patterns. And around the room were large, majestic sofas and a luxurious Persian rug. Amidst it all was a 30-inch television that seemed completely out of place. Imagine having a 30-inch television at 16 years old. Imagine having this goddamn house, for one.
Yeah.
It stood looking over the furniture like the emperor with no clothes, naked except for this VCR. The mansion's owner would have rather done without it, but to a commoner like Aoko, it was an essential commodity. We gotta watch the news, we gotta see the weather. They had fought over its presence at first, but eventually came to an agreement and now mutually enjoyed this modern comfort.
Nanda, 人のことは言えないか。うちも案外時代錯誤な家だった。
Now, in a somewhat pleasant mood, she decided to brew some tea. Imagine being fucking Gatsby at 16 and having his isolated problem at that. You gotta understand, there's no green light around here. There's no inciting incident for Aoko to actually figure herself out. She's just a teenager. If anything, she's probably better off. I can't imagine finding yourself running head over heels about a girl who just looks at you for beautiful shirts. Do I still think about Gatsby as an adult after reading it in high school? A little bit, but then again, I also like reading, so... She boiled some water in the kitchen, prepared a teapot, and made herself some black tea. Common Gatsby L. This sounds about right. Listen, he had enough problems as it is, don't worry about it. Either way, hello humbug. Welcome to Witch on the Holy Night, also known as, hey, this is a story about magic. You would not believe it from this intro, but it's a story about magic.
Bro, I've literally been nodding off.
With a flop, she sank into the sofa. She took a sip of her tea, then another. I should have tagged this as ASMR. I've thought it would be funny.
You could have. On God, you could have.
I'm trying my best with my voice chat. I'm trying to be confident with my diction.
I mean, I've been working on trying to get rid of my addiction.
Have you tried patches? Lulled by the ticking of the clock, she took a third sip and pondered how to spend her afternoon. It's already black outside. What do you mean? The sofa almost seemed to be inviting her, and she sunk even further into its comforting embrace. Oh hey, look, it's New Girl. Aoko blearily opened her eyes as she lifted her body up from the cushions. Who dat, though?
I don't like this. The outfit is vaguely nun-like, and in these games, that's never a good sign.
Don't worry about it. She just goes to Catholic school. This was no...
Not a good thing!
You haven't seen Garden of Sinners. Don't worry about it.
listen, this creator has an issue, severe trauma when it comes to fucking religion.
I wouldn't call it trauma. I think he just doesn't know what he's talking about. Anyway.
When has religion, any Christian sort of like figurehead or like school member ever appeared in one of these fucking joints and it's gone well for anyone involved?
Considering one of the most prolific magi in the Type Moon cinematic universe is a 17-year-old who just goes to Catholic school, I don't know what to tell you.
How much suffering was in their life?
No. If anything, the suffering was her more or less trying to get out of the middle school delusion of wanting to be the only girl for her brother. Yeah. I don't like Asuka for that exact reason, but we're not going to talk about it here. This was no dream or delusion. At some point, a girl had sat down across from her. Not the least bit surprised, she reached for her teacup. But the tea within had gone completely cold. She asked the question to the girl on the other side of the table. The girl answered without lifting her gaze. When silent, she could have been mistaken for a beautiful doll. The girl sitting on the opposite sofa was reading an old book. She had delicate limbs and pale white skin. Not a hint of humanity emanated from her melancholic aura. She had darker hair than Aoko, and her icy eyes were focused on the pages in front of her. Her clothes resembled that of a nun, but were actually her school uniform, like I said, Catholic school. In Aoko's humble opinion, the gloominess suited her. He evoked something like out of a painting. There was something unreal about her, as if she were frozen in time. The white of her gently arched neck was so lovely that even Aoko found herself enchanted by it. The girl was one of the haunted house's two residents. Her name was Alice Kuonji, and she was the same age as Aoko.
私どれくらい寝てた？1時間と少し。ここで眠ると風邪ひくわよ。
You could at least open your eyes and say that. Alice answered indifferently, not that it bothered Aoko, who was now used to it. She looked at the clock on the wall and saw that it was already 7. She had been asleep for 2 hours. The day had been a rough one for her, and she had slept little the night before, so it was no surprise that she had dozed off for as long as she had. She even has an Alfred. I mean, I'd call her more of a Raish than an Alfred, but I get what you mean.
起こしてくれてもよかったのに。せっかくの紅茶が冷めちゃったじゃない。私が来た時はもう冷めてたわ。でしょうね。行ってみただけよ。
Aoko drank down the rest of the cold tea in one gulp. In the poorly heated Kuonji mansion, that was more than enough to clear her head and wake her up.
こうなると、フォートナム&メイソンも何もないわね。おかえり、アリス。玉の贅沢もあんた抜きじゃ閉まらないってことかしら。今日は薬日か天中殺か。ちょっと早いけど、お参りってのも十分ありかもね。
This girl's got bad luck, imagine that. Naoko shrugged her shoulders as if resigning herself to her fate.
それで、何があったの
？After 2 years together, they knew each other quite well. Aoko had one way of asking questions, and Alice had another. Alice asked without raising her head, and Aoko gave her the details.
まず謝らなくちゃいけない。昨日徹夜で完成させた例のあれ、意味がなくなっちゃったのよ。ちょっと目を離した隙に沸騰しすぎて壊れちゃったみたい。 そうならないよう循環のコードを 2,3 本外したり縫合したりしたんだけど。
Alco tried to laugh it off as if it was someone else's problem.
どういうこと？今朝休養が入って学校に呼び出し受けたの。そこで転入生の世話を押し付けられて一日が無残にも消費されちゃって、帰ってきたら跡形もなく消えてました。怒る？アリス。
別に青子の器物破損にいちいち怒っていたら一生分の口論をすることになるでしょ。
Well, that's telling her, I guess.
代用品はあるからまた一から始めればいいわ。それより怒ってるのはあなたの方じゃないの
Also, hey, look at that detail right there. Her eyes are completely black compared to Sojiro, who just has dark eyes. There's nothing in there. Girl got doll's eyes for sure. Alice was very much on point today. It was true that despite outward appearances, Alco was seething with frustration. That aside...
この転入生っていうのがひどくずれててね。すごい山奥で暮らしてたらしくて、こっちの常識が通じないんだから。三問以下って言葉があるけど、あれって本当のことなのね、アリス。
Coping and seething. I can't believe it. Even Centris is here.
Hi, honey.
How are you feeling, by the way? As you can see, I finally did my due diligence and bought a visual novel of all things. Crazy, I know, but still. Alice raised her head in response to hearing her name. But Alco kept going on before she could get a word in edgewise. Alco, after all, expected no sympathy in the first place.
初対面から尺に触るやつだったけど、教室を案内した時なんか失神しそうになったわ。そいつ、教室で教師と1対1で授業を受けるもんだと思ってたらしいの。それはそれでまだ流せる。許容範囲よ、あの程度の冗談は。で、私が簡潔かつ丁寧に教室の何たるかを教えた後で、そいつなんて言ったと思う？それで青崎、他の教室は何に使うんだ？ですって。教室に他も何もないでしょ？
It's a room. For class.
なんていうか、そいつは少しでも説明を怠るとそのままで納得しちゃうのよ。何も疑問に思わないというか、想像力が欠如してるっていうか、想像することに慣れてないっていうか。まあ、一度言ったことはちゃんと分かってるっぽいからバカってわけじゃないんだけど。
あなたが人を批評するのは珍しいわね。そういうダメな人、気にするたちだったの？
みじんたりとも気にしないわよ。けど、明日からどんな間違いをしでかすのか、ちょっと心配なだけ。
What she was really worried about was having to clean up the mess if and when it happened. That had to be it. If not, it would mean she had no real idea why she could not get him out of his head. Ah, yes, girl is perplexed, got a feeling so complicated.
Could it be the fact that she is slightly traumatized by him almost committing self?
Honestly, I'm feeling just a mind of everything is weird in this. You have the time displaced mansion, you have urbanization creeping up as if it's not the bubble economy. My brain immediately goes back to the joke I made in Noir, where it's just like, this feels like a Christmas game, and it's the late 80s, therefore it's a Yakuza game.
It's true!
とにかく変なやつなの。案外アリスと気が合うかも。
三問一回はいい言葉ね。
Honestly, not gonna lie, I look at Alice's haircut, she reminds me of Makoto Makimura quite a bit. Not for any good reason, it's just like I could see how she could turn into that kind of character. But from her eyes, it was clear that the question of whether they would get along was irrelevant, given that they would never meet in the first place. Aokyo gave a non-committal response.
ところでアリス、さっきから何読んでるの？
霊的進化論の二次創作、スピリチュアルダイアリのまがいもの。
ああ、スウェーデンボリー。そんなの今更読んでも仕方ないんじゃない？
Actually, you know what, never mind. I think Alice is the kind of character that comes from the same vat that Faust from Olympus comes out of. It knows entirely too much, doesn't want to share it, is soft-spoken to a fault, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
新書なら退屈だけど、これは偽書だから。彼の欠点と長所を劇的に褒め上げている。よくできた冒険小説のようよ。立ちはだかる秘密組織の名前がカントとか。
And this one's not the original, it embellishes stuff. Which apparently makes it more adventurous, and I'm just like, Alice, what are you talking about? Do you just like the book because it's a book?
筆跡はあなたのおじいさんのものだけど。
へえ、あの人そういう趣味まであったんだ。割とユーモアがあったのね。惜しい人を亡くしたわ。
Aoko seemed nostalgic over her now deceased grandfather.
あなたのおじいさん、夏に頼りをくれたけど。
Oh, that there is fresh, I see.
よしてよ、死んだものと考えたいのに。
Okay, never mind, we got ghosts in this game, I see. Oh no, I got a Telemundo ad. What do you mean by this?
Whoa, telenovelas upon you.
I mean it when I say this. Every bad head who gets an ad on this channel, I want to know what it is. They don't tell me what my actual goddamn relevance is to the monetization gods, if you know what I'm saying. Naoko sighed and laid back on the sofa. The soft cushions caved in under her weight.
話は戻るけど。
Alice shot a glance at Aoko. Her body, buried in the sofa, remained still as a corpse. It was clear Aoko had tuned out of the conversation. Alice silently chastised her with a look. The more she thought about it, the less important the events of the day seemed to become. If she just ignored Alice, the conversation would end there. They would eventually get up and leave today's mistake unresolved for another day. However, that's not the kind of person Aoko Aozaki was.
いいわよ。何？
Her name is Blue Blue.
Bluey Blue Blue, Shabadoo.
Mm-hmm. Bluey Blue. The Bluey Bluesmith, that's what it is. He asked, still lying down.
今日できなかったのは少し痛いわね。
Mm-hmm.
だから反省してるって。学校優先は一人前になってからでしょ。
What did I tell you? This is a game about magic.
ならいいけど。
Man, not gonna lie, but these two have Naoto and Makoto vibes. You're gonna have to tell me last names as well. I'm not terribly familiar. The coldness in her voice made Aoko gnash her teeth. She knew what Alice wanted to say. She knew better than anyone. The veneer she wore for school was different than the way she lived at home. While it could be called hiding in plain sight, Alice thought it was silly. And what the silence told her was...
覚悟を決めろって言いたいのよね、あんたは。
Today's failure was not a colossal one. She just happened to upset the delicate balance between her home and school lives, chasing one at the expense of the other. Naoto Shirogane and Makoto Nijima, thank you. But that begs the question of which is which. And yet, that careless mistake was a clear sign of Aoko's lack of commitment.
アリスは関係ない。これは 私が私で決めなくちゃいけないこと。
Yeah, you just keep on sitting there with your eyes closed in that wannabe nun outfit. It's not your problem. He had only known for sure this last year and a half. But she had a hunch for as long as she could remember. Make the choice, and the day will come. It was a little wonder that her morals and conscience had been stripped away. Aoko pushed herself back up. She was met by Alice's cold beauty and wordless gaze.
OK、ハリス。来週中に決着をつけよう。それでいいんでしょ？
ええ、青子がいいなら。
Aoko could not help but shake her head, feeling like she was hearing something similar for the second time that day. Even in the comfort of her own, she couldn't banish the thoughts of that country boy from her mind.
じゃあ、下準備はよろしくね。私まだできないし。
場所は例の公園でいい？
妥当な線ね。あ、でももう一軒の方は？そっちの方が急務じゃない？
時と場合、森に変化があれば教えるわ。
After that brief exchange, Alice returned her attention to the book on her lap. Shop talk was over. Now, they could return to their normal relationship as roommates, and this 30-inch Sany television. Aoko grabbed the remote and turned on the TV. I was right, let's go. Since Alice was busy reading, Aoko decided to tune into a variety show that had already started. Alice started to speak, but suddenly cut herself off. One of her delicate hands raised to her mouth. She would always cut herself off the second she realized she was about to say something trivial. Sometimes her self-restraint would hit too late, and she would make a gesture like the one she was making now. It occurred to Aoko that sound her cute little roommate made just now was different than the "what" she blurted in times past.
何?
This is a different face. She's already so much better than she was at school.
Yay!
Aoko turned down the volume on the TV. Her intense eyes lit up like those of a mischievous cat.
どうということはないんだけど。
ないんだけど?
Alice looked away bashfully, not knowing if she should bring it up or not. This is a face for sure. It's funny, considering on my stream announcement, I found a gif of Alice thinking about spilled milk, and it's just like, yeah, even in context, it's pretty much what I see right here. It was times like these that her expression carried a real warmth and surprising charm. If he could see her in this moment, Alice's father would have had to admit that her name suited her perfectly, like some sort of Wonderland child.
今日帰ってくるときおかしなものを見て誰かに話そうと思っていたんだけど。
Aoko nodded, beckoning her to continue.
つまらない、本当に意味のないことよ。
Girl, how do you keep your neck leaned out like that?
けど、どう考えてもそんなことをする理由がわからない。青子、人間ぐらいの大きな猫がひょこひょこ出前をする理由ってわかる？
For a second, Alice thought Aoko thought Alice was trying and failing miserably to make a joke again. Nasu's art style makes me feel nice. Don't worry about it. Nasu's the writer. This is Koyama doing the art. You know, Musashi's artist. One would think that about anyone, really. But she seemed completely serious. Even if Alice's sense of humor fell flat for Aoko, this story already sounded more fanciful than Alice's usual attempt at jokes. Aoko concluded that her roommate was talking about something she had actually seen. Oh, really now? Exactly. If you remember Ska Hawk as well, that's the same artist too. Please understand, they put her in the MILF sweater. It's important to me.
その話には2つぐらい信じがたい部分があるけど、1つずつ論破していい？
Just a simple cream-colored ribbed turtleneck sweater?
Maybe in violets.
That's also workable.
いいの。私もからくりぐらいは思いつくから。ただ理由がわからないから聞いてるの。わざわざ精巧な猫のぬいぐるみを着て出前のてんやものを届けに行くことってそんなに簡単かしらね。
Honestly, this makes me go, could you imagine how much worse Uber Eats would be for the drivers if they had to dress up?
The amount of tips that I would require.
それをやる人間の常識性を疑うけどね。
No less than $20 no less than $20 a meal, let's be real.
Yeah.
Alice nodded tentatively at her words.
まあ、世の中いろいろあるから。私たちみたいなのもいれば、下界から遮断された山奥で暮らしていたやつまで10人十色よ。私だったら見かけたら声かけて理由を尋ねただろうけど。
Alice's gaze drifted at that.
暮れゆく住宅街にさまよう出前猫か。背景が夕焼けだったらファンタジーだったでしょうに。
My brain wants to go, the cat returns. How about you?
で、今日の夕飯どうする？せっかく話が出たし、私らもてんやものにしようか。
Alco loved getting takeout, and her face glowed as she spoke. They had no hard rules for dinner, but if one of them was in the mood to cook, they made it a point to make enough for two. At the very worst, this meant entire weeks without dinner, but the two of them agreed that this was the system that worked the best for them. Whether they found cooking to be too much effort or simply liked ordering out, nights like this were a common occurrence, much to the chagrin of the restaurants of Misaki Town. Delivering to the mansion meant coming all the way to the top of this hill, the source of their disgruntlement.
時間は8時前。ギリギリセーフね。私今月がいいな。あそこの月見そば最近ご無沙汰だったし。
The hungry student council president laid out a stack of takeout menus like she might fan out a deck of cards and excitedly scanned for anything that stood out. Alice casually responded without sparing so much as a glance.
悪いけど私夕飯済んでるの。
With those words, Alco froze. All deliveries required a minimum of 2 items, so she was out of luck without an accomplice. Cruel society had decided it couldn't be bothered to deliver to a princess who only ordered a single serving of food. Ain't that the truth? I'm over here thinking to myself, that would be out of my range of delivery. Incidentally, to counteract orders from the Hilltop Mansion, the restaurants had declared the minimum orders will be 3, starting next year. Just get leftovers for tomorrow. Exactly, but you know how it goes. Alco and Alice were still in the dark to this fiendish change in direction.
この裏切り者だから帰ってくるのが遅かったのね。帰宅部、学校までバス徒歩込みで片道20分のあんたがなんで5時以降に帰ってくんのか考えるべきだったわ。
You just get yourself 2 foods. It's fine. Exactly. Unfortunately for Alco, she had been too out of it to even remember that she was the one who had fallen asleep.
ああ、ひどい女。そういう時は残された一人のためにお土産買ってくるのが暗黙の了解だったのに。私だってこの前の外食の時はアリスの分も買ってきたじゃない。
It was unknown how serious Alco was being, but she was visibly angry. She had already woken up hungry that morning, and for the time she was called into school until now, she had consumed nothing but tea. It was a miracle that her stomach wasn't growling. She knew it was her own fault, but she persisted, wanting to get revenge on Alice for scolding her earlier.
この前ってあれのこと？あなたが都心に出向いた時、夕食にお寿司を食べてきたのに、お土産はなぜかコンビニエンスストアのビニール袋だったって話？
I mean, yeah, that is kind of scummy, isn't it? Alco had kicked a hornet's nest.
何よ、買ってこないよりはマシでしょ。
No. Nah. I'm kind of with Alice on this one. You had a luxury meal and you brought me back gas station hot dogs. That's not the same thing.
To be fair, convenience store food in Japan is actually pretty fucking lit.
I mean, true, but I'm giving an example of it. Let's put it this way. Imagine going to a fancy steakhouse and instead you brought back a McDonald's hamburger. How would you feel?
True.
Alice's icy gaze pierced right through her. Look at this woman. This is a girl who quite literally said, I'm calling you on your bullshit. I've lived literally with just you for like 2 years. Alco had certainly crossed a line by going on and on about how the sushi circled around the restaurant while Alice ate her convenience store meal. You see what I mean?
No, that's where you draw the line.
Exactly. Look at her face. The girl is quite literally saying, hey, you owe me still. But new things fascinated her, and she couldn't contain her curiosity towards the conveyor belt sushi shops that started popping up at the time. They were nothing short of miraculous. Even honesty can be a sin, given the right circumstances.
わかった。わかりました。じゃあ今回のは前のと帳消しってことでいいわね。
I don't know about that one. Alice went back to her book without so much as recognizing the question. The fact that she did not confirm it made Alco anxious.
仕方ない。今日は薬味だし、おとなしく台所に立って料理の腕を磨くとしましょう。
If Alice had any less self-control, the game would have ended here. That's about how it feels, isn't it? She stood up, now announcing her intent to no one in particular.
あ、聞き忘れてた。アリス、どこで夕食済ませたの？
The sushi restaurant, right? Alice's hand froze on her current page. She suddenly shut the book she was reading and stood up, as if at wit's end. She walked across the drawing room with her book in hand. When she reached the door, she stopped and turned towards Alco.
聞きたい。
まあ、なんとなく。
Alco nodded timidly, cowed by Alice's sudden vigor. Alice continued in her matter-of-fact way.
その猫が余ったメニューをくれたのよ。
And with that brief response, she left the room. Well, how about that? Somehow we actually read the entirety of Chapter 1 in an entire stream. I feel good about that. Meanwhile, this one doesn't know how she feels, huh?
I'm EP. I got work in the morning.
Yeah, that sounds accurate. I'm just over here like, hey, look at that. I feel good on the fact that I'm learning to use my voice properly according to the chat, and I want that to remain true.
Yay!
Even still, I'm mostly just like, hey, I am just probably going to tag these streams properly if we continue with this game. I'm allowed to stream up to Chapter 5 as far as the restrictions for the Japanese fan base have told me, but you never know. These rules are never actually set out right, and I'm just like, it would be nice if they did, but we're not going to hear anything about it, are we? Whoa, this was the first chapter. It was the first chapter. It was the first new century in 100 years, pretty much. I just look at it and go, hey, I can't wait for us to actually do something with action behind it tomorrow.
Yep.
Ultimate.
Tomorrow, we go back to fighting gods.
It's dot maxing, everybody. We become a god-pilled dot maxer, and that's about how I feel. Will I continue to say these things as if I'm at the proper age to do them? Yes. Unfortunately, the brain rot language is easy. Either way, I guess I'ma just send you in the direction of an actual RPG for once, and it's just like, you want to talk about Ys? If Kubo were here, I'd probably think he would, but even still, I don't know. We live in a time. Now I'm gonna get convenience store food. I imagine South Korea is very good at convenience store food as well. Show me some pictures if you'd be so kind. That being said, I'm mostly just over here like, hey, look at that, I'm gonna upload this in the morning, so do me a favor, pay attention to the YouTube links I put in the chat. Wait, no. Do me a favor. If you be so kind, tell your friends about the VOD channel if you'd be so kind. I kind of need the help to grow, if it makes any sense, but even still, we'll figure that out when we figure it out. I want to do something right with my many, many sock meds, but still, we'll figure it out. That being said, my name has been Megiddo Ichi, and I hope to see you all again very soon. Stay safe, drink water, hold on to the idea of nostalgia for as long as you can until it stops being good, and then hold on to the future. And I will see you all again in the next one. Have a good night, everybody.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.